to maybe win a race.
It is a massive Sunday of motorsport here on 7plus, and an early start too for round 5 of the Shannon Speed Series. The second half of this season started with a bang yesterday, and there's every indication that we will shift up a gear here today. Hi everybody, Greg Rust with you for our coverage of Event Elect Race Queensland. Why don't we take a look at the massive Sunday schedule I've been talking about for you. And it all begins with 3 hours of Monochrome GT4 Australia action. Lots to consider in the course of that big mission for those drivers and teams. We welcome back GT Australian Formula Open, 2 helpings of that today. One of the highlights of the day, Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, those magic GT3 machines back on track for another hour of racing. Trico Trans Am just around 1 p.m. there in your schedule, but that's the first of 2 races on Sunday, and it's a tight turnaround for those teams. Same story for Supercheap Auto TCR, only 2 hours between their races, and we are delighted as a part of our Sunday schedule to welcome the Toyota 86 Scholarship class. They have a pathway for Toyota 86 racing in this country now, and it's nice to have them with us as a part of this round of the Shannon Speed Series. The conditions, well, right now it's blue skies, hardly a cloud around. There is a current temperature of just 5 degrees. We're headed for highs of 23, hardly a breath of wind either. The conditions could not be more perfect. Now we have quite a cast of commentators for GT4. Josh Buchan will join us here in pit lane, but lots to consider in a strategy sense too as we take you to the Shannon's Hub and say good morning to Richard Craill.
Rusty, good morning. Welcome to the Trico Tech Centre. And as with all endurance racing, there's a little bit to consider and break down for you. So we put some keys to the race together to take a look at for this Monochrome GT4 3-hour, 180 minutes. That's pretty self-explanatory. Double points though. You must finish this race or it could be championship over for you. This is critical in the context of the season. 4 sets of tyres, so if you need to throw tyres at your car, you can afford to do. You've got 1 extra set than you usually do at a given round. 1 hour race yesterday was action-packed, it was dramatic, it was controversial. That sets the tone for today. 180 minutes this race. Mandatory driver changes every time you get into pit lane for a mandatory pit stop as well, and you cannot do refueling and tyres at the same time. Only 3 people can work on the car at any given time, so that restricts what you can do, and there are only 2 wheel guns, so that will dictate whether you do 2 tyres or 4. See how your timing goes when you get to the lane for that. So 3 mandatory stops, and you have to put a driver in at every time, and the key one for mine is that no driver can do more than 100 minutes of a 180-minute race. So you've got 20 minutes of leeway. In an ideal world, each of your drivers does 90 minutes in today's 3-hour enduro, but it makes it really challenging to work the strategy out. So here's some of the keys to this. Do not trip up on driver time. It'll end your day. Penalties are enormous for getting that wrong. If you exceed those 100 minutes, your day's done. Driver time and fuel stints won't match today. So you need to be massively adaptable to work out how you're going to run your race for fuel and for your driver time. And you're going to be basing it on driver time more than you are fuel. Basically, every time you get into pit lane, you're going to be putting fuel into your car. And you will go a lap down today. It is guaranteed that you'll go a lap down. Monochrome GT4 cars here, 75 second lap times. Mandatory pit stop times are another 50 seconds on top of that. So you're going to go down a lap. How you manage that will be a key to today's race. Consider doing 2 left tyres in a pit stop. It saves you time. The left-hand side tyres are the ones that cop all the abuse here at Queensland Raceway. Range, some cars might go further on fuel than others, so that could be a little joker in the pack that you need to work on. And the final thing to look at is while there's 3 mandatory pit stops, you can stop outside of that. So if you get some damage, if you get a puncture, if you get a well-timed safety car, you can barrel into pit lane and tick that box off. So that's the keys to the race. 3 hours on the clock. It starts as soon as that very good-looking field rolls away from the start-finish line. They're going to do 2 laps in formation this morning to generate a little bit of extra tyre temperature. And as we go to our commentary team, that's key because right now it's 5 degrees at Queensland Raceway, but the forecast temperature when this race ends in 3 hours is going to be 18. So that's a massive change over the duration of this race. We've got a great team to work through it as well. James Baldwin is going to be in the commentary box. Supercars ace Thomas Randall, who knows a thing or two about running long-distance races, will be with us. But the first voice you'll hear to lead you through this Monochrome GT4 3-hour, it's very good morning to Cameron van der Nonen.
Good morning, Krause. You've certainly earned your coffee at this very early start of the day. Thank you for taking us through the keys to the race. Billy Baldwin, Tom Randall join me for the rest of this coverage for the next 3 hours. It's all things GT4. We had a great race yesterday, Billy Baldwin. I'm going to come to Tom first, though. I was about to go to you because, Tom, we had a bit of news overnight. We talked and saw. Let's actually look at the track first. We'll come back to what's occurred overnight. Queensland Raceway, they call it the paperclip for a reason, but there's a number of action zones here. Yesterday in GT3, we saw a big incident down at turn 1. Plenty of cars, though, in this field. We'll be putting a move on down here at turn 3. That's where the action occurred yesterday between McLennan and George Medicki. 4 and 5, well, they were duking it out in GT4 through this section of track as well, but another big passing opportunity comes up here at 6 at the newly resurfaced part of Queensland Raceway. And then they head on down the main straight for another crack at a lap. Now, Tom, I mentioned before turn 3 yesterday where we saw that move from McLennan and George Medicki. Our call at the time, we only had the one real camera angle, was we felt that it was probably a little bit of an aggressive move, and it paid out a bit like that in the post-race interviews. But you've been speaking to Beto this morning, and what was the take?
I have. Good morning, Cameron. Good morning, James. Definitely from our point of view, from that one camera angle that we saw, it did look like, you could say, a bit of a dive bomb. But speaking to Craig Baird this morning, who is the DSO for the Monochrome GT4 series, he said that George Medicki in the Ford Mustang just didn't quite leave enough racing room for McLennan in the McLaren, who went for the move down the inside. And those two were battling at turn 3 almost every lap, weren't they? So that was the one.
So the big news, I guess, is that Method Motorsport kept their win yesterday. So wonderful for Chaz Mostard's team at Method Motorsport. Billy, it wasn't what we expected, especially in the after the post-race interviews where McLennan said his pedal was going long. George Medicki felt aggrieved. So for Method to keep that overnight, Beardo's made a big statement.
It's interesting, isn't it? Good morning to you both and to everyone watching on 7plus and, of course, at Queensland Raceway. As Thomas has already said, there was a bit of conjecture around who may have been at fault. And afterwards, even Tom said that he may have had to take that on the chin. Turns out he didn't, and these two Method Motorsport McLarens were able to start in first and second. And what that's done for the championship picture is incredible things as well. McLellan now only 7 or 8 points ahead of Medicki and Gray as we come into this epic 3-hour round here.
All right, so the clock has started ticking down. Remember those keys to the race that we saw at the beginning. The numbers you need to remember. 3 pit stops and no driver can do more than 100 minutes total out of this 3-hour race. So that 20-minute window and opportunity. If you're going to straight shot it, Tom, you and I were working it out in the back room, it would have been 45 minutes per stint.
Correct, and the thing about this race, as Crailsey touched on, is you've got these compulsory pit stops. The first 2 of 3 have to be no shorter than 155 seconds, and the last stop is 155 seconds plus any compensation times. Now, the compensation times are really only for the top 3 cars in whether it's Silver, Pro-Am, or the Am class. So we'll run you through that as the race gets underway. The compensation times we don't really have to worry about for now, but as Crailsey touched on, 2 formation laps as per the sporting regs in case of exceptionally cold temperatures where the track temp is under 10 degrees, which it is. The guys and girls in the field will have 2 formation laps just to get a bit more tyre temp. The track's a bit cool, warm those brakes up and warm the brain up as well. So we're just getting ready here now. Line astern, the 2x2 formation, and they'll be getting ready for a start very shortly.
Yesterday we saw the gun drivers at the wheel for the start of the race. And this one we've got they're still gun drivers in their own right, but probably the lesser either experienced or lesser in speed as they get ready for a race start here at the Monochrome GT4 Australia Series. Race number 2, 3 hours will be this journey. And we dive down into turn number 1. The 2 McLarens have maintained their top spot. And George Medicki will be looking for a way through in his Ford Mustang. Holds on to 3rd as they stand through turn 2.
We saw this yesterday, didn't we? This epically powered Ford Mustang. As soon as he can get past these two McLarens, the Method Motorsport McLarens, McClellan seems to have dropped back there. Tom Heyman now taking it through. And here comes Midiki in that all-important corner from yesterday, Thomas Randall.
Wadecki almost trying to do the exact same thing that Ryland Gray did on the first lap, going for that carbon copy around the outside with the grunt that Mustang has got. He's trying to go around the outside of McLennan here. These two have got a little bit of history from yesterday, so let's see if they can keep it clean. There's still 2 hours and 52 minutes of racing left.
He's set himself up beautifully there on the run into turn 5. They don't need to bang panels yet. 2 hours 52 remaining in this, and it looks like George Midiki got the job done there. That was the over-under move into turn 5. They now head through turn 6. Let's look at where they shake out at the end of the first lap. Remember, it's eyes forward. And just keep it clean through this portion of the race. Heyman, Midiki, McLennan, Camilleri into the top 4. We see Shane Smollen, the first of our Pro-Am team members in car number 1. He's in 5th place as they cross the line. Handing over to Lockie Beneath later in this race. Danny Studdard there in 6th and Steve Jakic in 7th. Now let's talk about the car number 3, the BMW. Ryder Quinn, incredibly quick yesterday, Billy.
What an incredible drive he had. Although he only finished 5th, put the BMW M4 around this raceway in a 1 minute 13.949 seconds, setting the fastest ever GT4 lap around the event-elect race Queensland Raceway. Thomas, incredible. And we were watching him yesterday, weren't we? And just keeping the eyes on how much pace he was able to extract from that car.
We were, and during that pit stop cycle, we sort of called it that he's going to stay out as long as possible in that car, because why not? He was setting purple sectors. That BMW's got a lot of pace, so I think the main thing that for them will just try and be for Jakic to just keep the car nice and clean, try and hold position and not lose, I guess, too much time from the silver guys, but they're in their own race with the Pro-Am. They're up against Smollen, who's leading that class at the moment, so the gap is about 2 seconds between the leader in Pro-Am, Smollen and Jakic, so yeah, I think Quinn will be pretty keen to get back behind the wheel of that car today.
Should also mention Jacob Lawrence, leader of the AM class at the moment, out on track. He's up against Newman and Peter Lawrence. They're the 3 of 4 cars with Turner, who immediately entered the pits before we even took to the start. And that was the 4th of our AM class cars. The 29 in pit lane hasn't come back out.
Now this is Smollen just going for a move on the silver of Camilleri. So a lot of pace in that Porsche as well. So he'll be looking to try and just build a bit of a gap over Jakic, and really, why not try and see what he can pick off in the silver class as well.
Yeah, and look, that's important for later in this race as well. Aaron Seaton will be jumping into the wheel of Jake Camilleri's car. And so Shane Smollen and Lockie Beneath, that could be an interesting battle throughout the rest of this race, because Aaron Seaton looked very quick behind the wheel yesterday, but was caught a bit further back in the field. As we see McLennan running a bit wide on exit of 6.
One thing to note as well, because of how cool the track conditions are, look at the lap times. Heyman, a 14.0, only a 10th off the new lap record set yesterday by Ryder Quinn. So the track is fast out there at the moment.
All right, we're going to take you for the first time down to Greg Rust, who is in pit lane with John Bowe.
James, thank you. This, I mean, you know all about early starts at race tracks. You've got a little short black, I think, over the back there. What is the key for early starts like this, JB?
Yeah, short blacks, for sure. Yeah, the only time I'm up this early was when I was about 14 and I had a paper round, mate. It's not my time of day, but still. It's a beautiful atmosphere, beautiful weather, fantastic track that Tony Quinn has brought into the new millennium, and it's really great to be here.
And we have a little debrief on your day yesterday. That's a magic little car that you're in, and how you might play this 3 hour this morning.
It's, as I heard some of you guys say earlier, there's lots of different strategy. Excuse me, it's a sandwich trying to kill me. Lots of different strategies can play out, but it's quite restrictive about how much time the drivers can do. So, I mean, keeping the car going and keeping the tyres alive is quite important, because there's lots of us would like to do the race on one set of tyres. Now, whether that's possible, I don't know. But Jacob Lawrence is my protege, but now he's kind of bypassed me in a very short time, which is very alarming. But I'm super proud of him. It's terrific.
We are chuffed that you're behind the wheel still and enjoying it as much as the day that he started. John Bowen will check back in with him during the day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Greg Russ, down there with John Bowen, who'll be driving, or is driving, with Jacob Lawrence, who's the leader of the AM Class cars. Randall Racing. No relation, Thomas?
Oh, that's a good one, Cameron. That's a good one. Yeah. I don't know if you can see that it's actually different spelling on the side of the car. So they obviously had to do that for copyright purposes, clearly.
Oh, here we go.
Is it too early for those jokes?
Not at all. Not at all, Thomas Randall.
Now, in the meantime, get back to some actual racing.
Please.
McLennan, 1:13.5. That's under lap record pace set from yesterday. And Hayman's under lap record pace as well with 13.8. But Mediki is really on the heels here of McLennan. So, sorry, I think McLennan's just made that move on Mediki. So he's got a lot of pace. He's going to want to try and catch his fellow Method Motorsports McLaren.
Yeah, so it very much appears that there is a strategy for McLaren to run and hide. So they're up the road now. McLennan did clear George Mediki. So it's a McLaren 1-2 as they started this race.
We're talking a lot about how good this Mustang is. Let's find out a little bit more from the man who was driving it yesterday morning. Rusty has Ryder Quinn.
Well, I'm actually with Ryland Gray at the moment here, James, and he's been doing a super job with this Mustang. You're all kitted up and ready to go nice and early. Is this part of a plan, or you're just on standby?
Probably just on standby at the moment, just in case something happens I can jump in. So, yeah, looks like the race has got underway all clean, and yeah, look forward to it.
Feedback on yesterday, I mean, obviously a bit played out. How do you feel about things overnight and so on?
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate what happened, but, you know, we've got a long 3 hours today, so we'll just put our heads down and hopefully get to the end in a good position and fight from there.
When you've been talking with the team and getting ready for this 3 hour, it's a change of pace for everybody from a crew standpoint today. What do you reckon is going to be the key to having that Mustang in with a shot of winning this at the end of the 3 hours?
I think just being consistent and keeping the car clean and getting it to the end. You know, it's a pretty long day to start with, and yeah, just getting it clean to the end is probably the best thing we can do. Clean pit stops, and yeah, hopefully be there at the end. He's
been doing a ripper job this season, Ryland Gray. Looking forward to seeing him behind the wheel.
Thanks, Rusty. Yes, of course, Ryland Gray, and it was interesting hearing George Mediki waiting to get in the car yesterday, just saying how good a job this young bloke is doing, quote unquote. And don't we know it? And just looking at the pace of this Mustang, Tom Randall, we were already talking about the Method Motorsport McLarens. They're building a little bit of a gap. Tom Hayman had a really cracking start to this race. You mentioned some really wonderful things yesterday about UV and how that impacts the track. Obviously, we're not there yet with the temperatures being so low, but could temperatures play a little bit into the hands of these McLarens versus the Mustang this early in the morning?
Potentially, yes, and we know that the strengths of the McLarens are really under braking and the cornering, so I think the Ford has them over on straight line speed, but the two McLarens out front, about 3 seconds between the two. Hayman's done a really nice job off the start to, I guess, build that gap. Mediki was able to get past McLennan, and that sort of helped Hayman jump away a little bit, but they're both sort of trading times at the moment. They've both just set a 13.3 for Hayman just on that lap, and McLennan has just done it again, gone faster with a 13.1. So that's all 0.8 faster than what we saw yesterday. And that's back to your point about UV and track temperature. We're at probably the most ideal conditions, apart from, say, 5 p.m. This is golden hour for a race driver in a race car.
Well, and for an engine, this is the time I absolutely love that low ambient temp, low wind, and a little bit of sun, and temperature starting to come up. But the other thing to remember is these are GT4 cars. They're built for endurance-style racing, so a 3-hour race is really nothing to this type of car. So they can push them, but you'd imagine that this strategy is to run and hide on the big muscle car of the Ford Mustang. So we'll come back to you in just a second, Tom. In the meantime, let's check back in with Rusty.
Cam, I'm with Elliot Barber, who you know is regularly behind the wheel and will be today for 2 races in Trico Trans Am. He drives the Pioneer DJ Camaro, but you've been brought in by the Mediki team to kind of help out here. What are you doing with this race?
Yeah, so the boys just need a hand with the car controller. So we're not on till 1 today, but I got up early to help me good mate George out, and hopefully he can bring the Mustang home in P1.
Are you enjoying this whole sort of GT4 class? I mean, it's grown as the season has progressed in terms of numbers and cars, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's got real legs here in Australia. So excited by what the team at Monochrome Motorsports are doing with the Ford program, and yeah, I think it's going to be great racing.
You've been doing a super job in a podcasting sense with your buddy Scott Pye, but are you running that voice a bit low, mate?
Yeah, hopefully we've got no podcast this week because I sound a bit knackered at the moment, but yeah, no, it's good fun.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go, Barbs. He's never sounded as good, have you, Elliot? No, it's great to see he's on the radio with his good mate, George Miedeke. They're part of the old, I'd call them the New South Wales crew that used to hang out. Tom, you know, the old, one of the groups of drivers that come up together. And they all stay friends, just like I know you do, Tom. You've just come back from the UK, seeing some of your old mates as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been great. I had a nice little quick trip over there between our supercar rounds and got to do a lot of fun stuff. Had a good mate of mine, Jack Aiken's wedding, which was like being in a movie. So a lot of fun. Spent 2 days with Rob Wilson, a renowned world-class driver coach, who's quite a unique character, but I learned a lot off him. And then got to attend Goodwood, the Festival of Speed, and that was just an eye-opener how they run that sort of event. So they do it so well over in the UK, but the amount of respect that they have for us in Australia and the talent pool that we produce, I think is pretty special.
And very quickly, if you want to jump on, there's a good article, Billy Baldwin, if you want to jump on the Speed Cafe, I will give them a plug, because our good mate Thomas Randall Esquire III over here, he's got several very good quotes, although we're not going to talk to him about his BOP comments because we're running a BOP category here. But no, awesome, good job, Tom, and I do love that you're bringing the positivity back to Australian motorsport. Stop punching down on our sport was the message Tom was saying. And I'm right there with you, mate. 2 hours, 40 minutes remaining in this one. Heyman, McLennan, Miedeke, your top three. The first of our Pro-Am competitors, Shane Smollen, sits in fourth outright, and Jake Camilleri, Jacob Lawrence is in sixth, Jake Camilleri's in fifth. And the first of our AM class cars is Jacob Lawrence, who's driving with John Bow.
Talking a little bit about BOP, maybe let's unpack that, Thomas, if we could. This early in the morning, if you've just tuning in, you've got your morning coffee and you're maybe not so up to spec on what that might be. Thomas, why is BOP important in GT racing? And firstly, kind of what is it?
So BOP, balance of performance, I guess it's a system that's introduced to essentially equalise racing amongst different cars and manufacturers. Now, every car is different in its own right, whether it be power delivery, so the engine, different type of engine, could be a 4-cylinder, a 6-litre, could be a V8, turbo, naturally aspirated. You've got different weights. These cars could weigh 100 or 200 kilos more or less, or even more. Between the Ford Mustang and the McLaren, I think it was like 250 kilos difference in weight. And then not only that, the body shape. These cars are, well, you just compare those cars again. The McLaren is a tiny car and the Ford is trying to punch a massive hole through the air. So balance of performance is a way of trying to equalise these cars. Now, whether that be from a weight ballast point of view, so they just essentially add weight to the car, try and even that out, or from a power delivery in terms of like an air restrictor. So that gets fitted to essentially the air intake, and that just restricts how much air is going into the engine. So it's kind of like trying to breathe with your mouth shut or closed. It's a lot trickier. So yeah, and that's something that the SRO have been doing for years, and I think they've got it to a point now where, I mean, all we have to do is look at the race yesterday, for example. It came down to the wire between the Mustang and the McLaren. So without that in place, I think it would be very tricky to have cars racing equally like that.
And it's great just to see the difference of cars. While we were off air yesterday, I was lucky enough to be sitting next to Matt Nolte, and we heard some of these cars on screen in the background, and he said just how good these AMG GTs sound. As we see it move on, Cam, into what arguably is the best place to get it done. But the 23 Newman, just trying to get it with Griffith.
Well, Mark Griffith's putting the moves on him at the moment. If you remember earlier this season, actually, you probably remember, Billy, you weren't with us down in Tasmania, but Ben Newman was running this car down in Tassie, getting his head around it. It was a brand new car, and he's now through on Mark Griffith, although I don't know for how long, because the two of them are duking it out on track, but Ben Newman rolled this car out as he moves up into 11th spot now, covers off as they head up to turn 6 now from Mark Griffith. Battling it out. I mean, we're only 20 minutes into a 3-hour race at the moment, and they're throwing it down.
I mean, why not, you know? They've paid for the track time, may as well make the most of it, Cameron. Oh, and we can see that Janetta might have had a moment. That looks like out in turn 4, he might have just looped on the exit there, so.
And we didn't mention, did we, yesterday, that this entry, the Cotterell entry, had to retire, but they managed to get it fixed in time. Both Janetta's starting, which is great. Seems to be pointing in the right direction now, which is a good thing to see. This was super quick in qualifying 1 yesterday too. Let's just have another look at this, Thomas Randall.
So he's just headed in and he's just lost the rear on the exit, so easy to do. Probably got a little bit excited with the throttle pedal there. And I mean, yeah, that BMW stalking him as well, so no damage, pretty low risk there, and I mean, he's just back on the track now, and it is a long way to go. There could be a safety car, and he can be right back in it.
Yeah, getting lapped now as well by the entry of Shane Smollen, who's 4th outright, but there's the 750 of Mark Cottrell. So he shares that Janetta with Jared Hughes. That's who he'll be handing over to a little later. We continue on our merry way.
Just while we're talking about Mark Cottrell, for the GT4 Silver Cup winners, BRM French brand, V6 chronograph from Mark Cottrell Master Jeweler watch is up for grabs. And it looks absolutely gorgeous. And as we've already discussed, Greg Rust would love that as well, Thomas Randall.
Well, I actually thought that's what Greg Rust was wearing on his wrist. We might need to get a shot back of Greg in the pits, because it looked like he had a lovely bit of silverware on his wrist. Couldn't quite make out what sort of watch that was. Maybe we can get a bit of a close-up.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea if we can just confirm whether Greg Rust has that on his wrist or not. That would be fantastic to see. A team in pit lane there.
Oh, he's done a deal. There is no doubt Rusty has done a deal.
And look at this. Lap traffic already now coming into play with 2 hours, 35 minutes, 30 seconds on the clock. This will become a regular feature for these two Method Motorsport McLarens at the front. Heyman managing to navigate that car pretty easily with Lawrence.
Both Jacob Lawrence and Tony Quinn have had pretty good first 25 minutes of racing. They're both up 5 spots and 6 spots in this one. And the two McLarens out in front, well, whether there's been a directive of just holding station, they're sort of holding that gap at around the 2.8 to 3 second mark. And at this point in the race, boys, there's really not much point to risk it. You could see a few laps earlier, Heyman's car just had a little bit of what looked like a little bit of rear instability on the way into turn 6, so he's probably just trying to nurse it. You can see him working the wheel there on the way into and through turn 6, so the last thing you want to do is overheat those rear tyres early on.
Let's start to think to the end of the race. I know it's funny to say that 2.5 hours away from it, but whenever you build an endurance program, you always start at the end of the race and work your way back from there. At the moment, the gap, and the two McLarens are out in front. They're part of the same team, Method Motorsport, owned and run by Chaz Mostert. 6.4 seconds, though, is the gap behind the second of the two McLarens, which is McLennan. And George Miedeke, 6.4 seconds off the pace. Now, they were quick in qualifying. They're quick over a lap. But you think about what sort of gap do they need on Ryland Gray, particularly if there's, well, in their mind, they'd be hoping for no late race safety cars. But you'd want a decent gap, wouldn't you? Because Ryland Gray is exceptionally quick in that Mustang.
He is, but it's all well and good wanting to have a gap. It's another thing actually getting the gap. So, like you said, there could be safety cars. We still have that compensation times. I mean, Ryland's obviously ready to go, and he's going to be jumping in pretty soon. The reason that he's gotten ready so early, is just in case of a safety car, because the last thing you'd want is if you're sitting there without your race gear on, someone drops it in the dirt, safety car comes out, what happens then? That means that Miedeke will have to stay in the car, and then if it's green for the next stint and he's full of fuel, you don't want to risk that 100 minutes driver time.
And do you, with the amount of time you've got for a pit stop, I mean, look at the time difference than what you would get in supercars for a pit stop here as we watch George Miedeke round the outside, turn 1.
Is that the round the outside of Randall?
Yes, it was.
Sorry, I've dropped it there.
No, you're good. The question is, for some of these drivers, you're talking a very long time in the cockpit. Is there potential you feel like they might just switch in and out?
In terms from a mental point of view?
No, as in getting out of the car physically and handing over to their other driver and then doing a switch back. And then doing a switch back.
I think at the moment, well, you have to do the driver change in the stops, but in terms of a physical point of view, I'm not sure it would be too bad because the temperatures are quite low. So in saying that, if they start battling, then that's normally when the heart rates go up and the sweat starts coming.
All right, let's take us down to Greg Rust in pit lane.
James, we're tracking down that watch for you too. We'll show you that very shortly with Troy Williams from GT4 Australia. This is Ryder Quinn. He and I are hoping to get a watch like that. Hey, firstly, well done yesterday. Great pace from that car. What's the plan on Sunday morning here?
The idea is to do the exact same thing as what we did yesterday. You know, it was P5 outright and P1 in class, which is our best result so far. The BMW really struggles in the cold. That's why we really struggled in qualifying, and you know we're struggling now in the colder conditions. But you know, as the race progresses and the temps rise, I think we might have a good go at the end.
Now there is a reddish Porsche ahead of you on track at the moment. Your granddad, who you affectionately call Popeye, Tony Quinn, who owns this track. What's the kind of gamesmanship like with your granddad?
Yeah, look, I mean, if I'm behind him and there's 5 minutes to go and the gap's half a second, who knows?
You enjoy this racing, don't you?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, the GT4 is a great category, and especially here around QR, it's pretty cool. It's our home track, so it is cool.
Nice to catch up. Have a fantastic day, Ryan.
Thanks so much. Thanks, guys.
Well done, Rusty. There's a saying in motorsport, Tom, when we talk about drivers, and James, I'll bring you into this one as well. It says, he's so aggressive he'd probably fence his grandmother. Now, you actually look at that. Ryder Quinn's got an opportunity to potentially fence his grandfather. So, would he take that opportunity, James? Your thoughts?
Surely not.
Well, I looked at that interview and went, you know what? He actually said, whatever happens, happens.
I think that was code for, I'm going to go for it.
Hey, Rusty, it's keeping you busy down there, mate.
Cam, we've got a little something that we want to show you on with Troy Williams. Check this out here. Look at that. And I think it is just the right size for me too. This is, I mean, we're talking about this because not only is it an important prize for the drivers, it's actually been made by one of the competitors, hasn't it?
Yes. Look, we're really lucky with GT4 Australia to have a fantastic group of sponsors. Of course, Monochrome, our naming rights partner, Pirelli, Griffith Corporation, but in this case, Mark Cotterill, Master Jeweller, has come up with a fantastic prize for the Silver Cup drivers this round. A BRM watch, really befitting of the category and our competitors. A unique timepiece. BRM, of course, a French organisation. So, and with Mark in the field, it just makes it more special and more personal. So,
I know you've been around production car racing, Troy, for a long time. You do a great job on the administrative side, but we actually really need to show the viewers at home what it looks like. He's got it under lock and key. So let's have a closer look once again. Here you go. What about that beautiful timepiece here? Just one of the cool little aspects of Monochrome GT4 Australia. Thanks for showing it to us.
no problem.
As it stands, Nathan Morecambe and Tim McLennan need to be careful about where that watch ends up. Greg Rust, thank you for showing us that. Beautiful.
No doubt, Rusty asked, he was watching, what's the combination for the box? That's what it is. What's in the box, Troy?
I was hoping to see Rusty actually put it on his wrist.
Take it for a test drive?
Give it a test drive, yeah. What do you think?
If there was a person that could get some sort of deal going, it would be Greg Rust. Don't worry about him. You can't sleep on the old Rusty. And I'm sure he's going to be pounding the pavement, working out if there's any other stories going on down there as we approach about 15 minutes away from our the first of our windows. Let's have a look at the replay here.
Yeah, that's a long way off in turn one. Great to gather it up, and pretty much essentially no damage for Love. And what that's actually done, Heyman's just lapped Love there, and the gap between Heyman and McClellan has come down to about 1.5 seconds. So that was about 3 seconds only a few laps ago. So I think McLennan's got the eyes on here, and he's going to try and...
bit of traffic may well have just compromised the run there for Heyman, but you're right. Look at the lap time last time around. So 1.7 seconds. The gap at the first sector split was more the way of Heyman. So once he cleared the traffic, he's been able to find the speed again. But the fastest lap of the race lap record, all three drivers are below the race lap record so far. At the top of that does go the way of McLennan at the moment. And that's the driver on screen right now. We're 15 minutes away from what would be the opening of the straight split of strategies for pit stops, and let's check in again with Greg Rust.
Just waiting to have a little word with Nash Morris. His dad, Paul, on the radio there at the moment. He's picked up a bit of silverware yesterday, as you know, in Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. You're at the wheel of this mighty Merc. How have you found the weekend so far?
It's been up and down. We're just having a lot of fun here. Drivo's out there currently, and we're going to try and do a pretty ballsy strategy to get back up the front here, but we've got a pretty good strategist here, Paul Morris. He knows how to do a few of these enduros, so got a good strategist there.
What the plan of attack, Nash, roughly for the 3 hours? What are you guys planning to do here?
Who knows?
Okay, there you go. Thank you, mate.
So great insight there from Nash Morris. No, what he's suggesting is the team will let me know. His job's to drive and do what the mechanics, and I think he mentioned, did you say Paul was on the radio?
It doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, no, we've seen that happen, and best on ground must go to Richard Crail at this point in time too. Rolling in for our own pit stops. Coffee's here, 31 minutes in.
He's looking after us.
He is. He wants a deal on a bed. That's what he wants. The 25 of Heyman still leads this one. 1.3 seconds the gap, and you're right, McLennan really turning the wick up on him. So, Tom, I was wondering whether it was traffic, but I do believe McLennan now is pushing on, wanting to get himself well and truly in reaching or touching distance of Heyman.
Half a second faster on that last lap for McLennan over Heyman. So certainly putting the pressure on. It's like that McLaren's really come alive in 32 minutes into this race. Badiki is about 12 seconds back from the leaders, but I know it's a long race. That car does have the shortest of the compensation times for the pit stop. So something to think about later in the race, and they will know that. So they only have 10 seconds of compensation time, whereas the leader, well, it's actually McLennan has the most in 20 seconds.
Just letting this one breathe at the moment. So we'll run through the order for those of you just joining us on 7 Plus. Good morning. We've been racing for 33 minutes so far in this 3-hour race for the 2024 Monochrome GT4 Australia Series. Is race number 2 for the weekend here. It's Heyman and McLennan, 2 McLarens leading this race and leading the silver class. George Miedeke at the wheel of his Mustang is in 3rd. The first of our Pro-Am cars and 4th outright on circuit is Shane Smolin at the wheel of his Porsche. Jake Camilleri, he's 5th outright, 4th in his class. And then we've got Jacob Lawrence still leading the Am class, 6th outright, and also leading the Am class with Newman and then Peter Lawrence, 2nd and 3rd in Am class. So 3 stops, 3 mandatory stops for each of these teams. No driver can spend more than 100 minutes at the wheel as we see the battle.
That gap's really come down now. I mean, it's, well, you don't even need to look at timing to see that gap. It's half a second. So whether or not Heyman is either just trying to look after the tyres or he's burnt the tyres too early on and is trying to get a gap, and McLennan has just brought the car in really nicely. And I wonder if there might be a call from the team to say, hey boys, maybe we should do a bit of a swapsies here and just low risk, see the car that has more pace, get a bit of a gap and try and secure that win potentially.
Well, we did see that early on, didn't we? Heyman just absolutely put his foot down and made a commanding gap and trying to stop Miedeke from doing what they did yesterday in that Mustang. just that lap traffic of the Ginetta getting well out of the way as we go through turn 3, as we said earlier, a point of conjecture for yesterday's Monochrome GT4 race. And these two teammates who are absolutely setting the pace and doing a fantastic job out front, now coming into play, McLennan, who was absolutely on it yesterday, is going to be big in the mirrors of his teammate Heyman.
Well, this is only going to help Mediki. If these two start battling, that's going to bring that gap down for Mediki. Now, it doesn't need to be a 2-second gap, a 3-second gap. It's currently 13 seconds. So if they can get that car back within 10 seconds of the McLarens, that's really going to bring them back into the race. Because remember, guys, the last pit stop is when those compensation times will be added. And the Ford has the least of the top 3 guys.
No, very good point there. Plenty to play out. 2 hours, 22 minutes remaining in this race. We're going to take a quick break on 7+. Stick around, because this one's going to heat up towards the back end of this race. Heyman holding out McLennan now. Mediki, that gap, 13 seconds. Is holding steady there at the moment. It did blow out briefly a couple of laps ago. We'll stay with this battle though. It's for the outright lead. Potentially could be one of the decisive moves of the race if McLennan's able to get through on Heyman. So McLennan ended up keeping the win yesterday after contact with Mediki down at turn 3. The second last lap, making our way back onto the main straight again. Heyman, McLennan, Mediki, your top 3.
And that gap's just sort of plateaued now between the top 2. They're just setting pretty much identical lap times. Same first sector, same middle sector, and pretty much the same last sector. So I'm sure those two will know if they're going to be playing nicely with anyone, Cameron, it's going to be with each other. So at this point in the race, 2 hours 20 to go, the pit stop window, we believe, not too far away, about 8 minutes potentially, if you wanted to even stint it, like we suggested.
And so if you are just tuning in, 3 pit stops they're required to do. They can take them whenever they want. We were saying that if you're doing a straight cut, so you're dividing this race up evenly, 45 minutes will be the first stop, and we are approaching that time now. So the gap's still holding at half a second. Traffic's playing a little bit of a part here. Not sure whether McLennan's got to put a move on just yet.
Well, this could open the door for McLennan.
So just making our way up on the inside of the circuit, exiting turn 5 on the way back rounds. Welcome back on our 7+ coverage. We're seeing our race leader, Tom Heyman, just pull into the pits. This is the first of the pit stops we're seeing. And so you've not missed any of the action during that break. That happened just as we were coming back in. So Heyman now in the pits. We thought 45 minutes might be the first stop. They've gone slightly early. This could be a decision just to give McLennan some clear air, Tom Randall, as they were running line astern. And they're up to nearly 14 seconds the gap, and as a result, George Mediki has been able to find a little bit more time on McLennan. So Heyman's still in that pit stop. They're doing a refueling here. They can't do tyres and fuel at the same time. Only 3 crew can work on the car, as we heard from Richard Crail at the top. So they had to wait until the refueling had stopped before they could start the tyre service.
So it looks like no tyre change on the Heyman car, which doesn't really surprise me. I mean, you're 40 minutes into the race and you'd expect they wouldn't have used too much of the tyre. Driver change for that team. And for McLennan, there's no reason to pit and sort of double stack, I guess, the 2 McLarens. May as well stay out. It's got the clear air now, so let's see what McLennan can do behind the wheel now that I guess you could say he's been released. And while they service the 25 of Heyman.
Now, the way this track is laid out and the short length of the circuit, it means we're going to have a couple of cars outside of sequence. And this man here, Chaz Mostert, the boss at McLaren's Method Motorsport, or the Method Motorsport McLarens. He'll be working away, crunching the numbers, have a couple of strategists working on the wall for him. But it's a very strategic race of 3 hour.
And something we talked about yesterday with these pit stop times, 155 seconds. So that's from the moment the car enters the pit lane. So that's when they cross the pit entry beacon to the pit exit beacon. And what we saw Chaz doing there, he's talking to his driver. He's got the stopwatch going and he knows how long that car needs to be in the box for. So when it gets released, when it gets to the pit exit line, it's going to be 155 seconds or maybe one second leeway, because the last thing you want is to cross that and be under, because what that will mean is you haven't completed one of your mandatory pit stops.
You also don't want to go too slow either and just give up time unnecessarily. So a bit of an art to it, as we see him just come out on track again now. So McLennan, Medicki, Smolin and Camilleri with Jacob Lawrence in top 5, Greg Rust.
So the Ginetta in the lane here now for a bit of a tyre pressure change, a check and a driver change. And Marcus Flack at the wheel now of the 25 McLaren. So 2 laps down. So that's what it is. You lose 2 laps under a pit stop. So it's gonna be the same for everyone, but the last thing you'd want is a safety car if you've just pitted. So we'll see what Medicki does here, whether he pits in a response to the 25. But let's head back down to the lane with Rusty.
Just watching the end of this stop for the 750. So Mark Cottrell out of the car. Jared Hughes is behind the wheel of the Ginetta. Now, I know during the commercial break that Thomas Randall wanted to know about the other car for Scott Turner and Rob Rubis. Now, I've run out the back and had a quick word to Rob Rubis. Unfortunately, that car is out for the rest of this race. When they ran it up on the jack stands this morning, everything seemed to be okay. On the warm-up lap, though, they've developed a significant problem. It's lost third gear, so unfortunately it's game over for that Ginetta.
Thanks, Rusty. Sad for Turner and the Ginetta entry. As we see the other Ginetta coming out of pit lane after one of the pit stops. 2 hours 15 to go. And just in the back of the shot there, you may have seen a flag being waved. And a special shout out to our volunteers, marshals. If you want to get involved, you're watching here on 7 Plus, or even if you are at Queensland Raceway, it is a brilliant thing to do to get involved in motorsport in this country. You can volunteer at the Motorsport Australia website. Have a look. As we go and see in the bottom of your screen, car 36, a driver change. Camilleri getting out. As I said yesterday, Thomas Randall, there's not that much time pressure to try and get someone out of the car. We did see that a little bit in the GT3s yesterday, more of a time pressure to get people in and out of cars, and certainly other series, but it is one of these strategic plays. As we said, when are we going to see drivers change? Cam made a really good point earlier. If someone's feeling a bit tired or maybe not as sharp as possible, is it worth getting them in and out a couple of times to see us through, or be the rest of this race? Another 2 hours and 14 minutes to go.
Yeah, still a long way to go there. And we've just seen Aaron Seaton climb aboard that Mercedes GT4. So he'll be pretty keen to get out there and try and set some lap times down. McLennan still holding really strong out the front here. He's actually increased that gap now to 15.5 seconds over Medicki. So they've got a nice little buffer here. And it'll be interesting to see when they bring that 24 in, because they've obviously brought the team car in of Marcus Flack, who's now out there. But at the moment, there's probably not much reason to bring that car in. The only risk will be, well, a safety car, but that won't really impact McLennan at all.
Interesting to see where Marcus Flack ended up coming out after that pit stop. Currently running in 14th. Of course, that's not really where that entry is. As Richard Craylin said at the very top, you're at least going to go a lap down, probably even 2, depending on how long things will take. So we look at the back straight here, turn 3. And one of the things I love about this category as well, Thomas, is just the different type of cars. Looking at these Porsches, mid-engine as well. Talking a little bit earlier about the Mercedes and, of course, the Mustang front engine. Slightly different weights as well. All right, let's take us back down now to Greg Rust.
James, things are heating up at this end of the pit lane. Nash is telling me to move out of the way here because they're going to do their stop. So Paul Morris giving the signal on the wall. In the meantime, the Buckby Motorsport Mercedes is in here. We'll try and stay out of Nash's way, so we'll get our cameraman Benny to clear. Let's come down here and see if we can't have a word to Jake Camilleri and get an idea of the stint for you and how it went. So far, so good?
Yeah, I feel like our pace was slightly off a little bit. We just seemed to have a little bit of troubles with the brakes, and I don't know why. They just seemed a little bit fadey. But no, good. The balance is better than yesterday. We had trouble with the rear end, and it was a lot better this morning. A little bit of push, but yeah, we just got to put ourselves in a bit of a rhythm now and just, yeah, hammer on to the end.
Nice decision to bring Aaron Seaton into this mix. So good. I mean, he was a star in Trans Am in this series going back a couple of years ago. Good to have him behind the wheel with you.
Oh, it's great because at the first couple of rounds I haven't had anything to compare against, so it's great having him in the car just to know what we can work on. And yeah, he's got some great ideas. Great guy, great driver.
We'll let you debrief. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You are, but just we'll stay with this here, and we're waiting for Nash's stop to happen. In the meantime, why don't we sneak over here because I can spot a legend of Australian touring car racing, and that is Glenn Seaton. So your son's just completed his stop. He's jumped behind the wheel. Firstly, how is he? He was a little bit crook when he arrived at the track the other day, wasn't he?
Yeah, he has been rusty. He's been very crook actually, and so we've given him as much time as we could at home. So, but he said he feels much better today, so hopefully he can do his 2 stints he needs to do because he's doing a good job.
Sure is. Now, you can't stay away from this game. Just give people a sense of what you're doing here during this 3 hour and how you're assisting.
Well, naturally, Aaron runs the car normally day to day for Jake, and so when Aaron got crook, I had to come in and do my duty. So, naturally, I've just been organising the whole thing to get it together for today, and with the help from Jason's partner Jules and also Jason Gomercel has been fantastic, and we've got some great guys that help us out. So yeah, it's been challenging, but I'll tell you what, where else would you be on a Sunday morning? Sun shining Queensland.
Awesome to catch up with you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Rusty.
Thanks, Rusty. Great to see some legends of Australian motorsport around and families of. This is a wonderful thing about motorsport in this country. As we've already spoken about, Quinn's on track and Father Seaton looking after son. Looking on screen now, some traffic coming into play. McLennan leads us around with 2 hours and 10 minutes to go. And Medicki on, I should say, Medicki trying to get up close to the Method Motorsport McLaren,
who is actually coming up to lap. So I don't know whether he's just been passed by the McLaren, who's trying to unlap himself. But yeah, we first thought that might have been the battle for a lead change. But McLaren's just come in the pits, and Ryder Quinn has just taken over from Jackage in the BMW as well. So this really is the time, boys, that all the pit stops are happening.
So different battle now that you're watching on screen. George Medicki still at the wheel of his entry. Marcus Flack now at the wheel of the 25 McLaren, Method Motorsport McLaren, and McLennan is in, Smollen is in. So we're starting to see the majority of our pit stops unfold. Medicki lights ablaze, having a look to the outside, being covered off here by Marcus Flack.
And this is going to hurt Medicki here because he needs to either find a way past Marcus Flack or pit. If he stays behind for too long, he's going to be losing out precious time here.
So ducks to the inside at turn 6, then back out to the outside. He's going to stay in it. Doesn't pull into the pits. Looking to get the move done down at turn 1. Now they are a couple of laps apart. Blue flags are waving. So remember that. This is not for track position. Blue flags waving. Should be moving over.
Yeah, Marcus
race
is
control.
Be careful here.
Yeah, I was about to say Motorsport Australia race control will be watching If he sees the blue flag a few times and doesn't obey it, then the next flag that comes out will be a bad sportsman. If he continues to do it, he'll get penalised for it.
Now the thing is, folks, technically he's not actually genuinely 2 laps down. It's just obviously he's pitted early with that really long pit stop. However, he is technically 2 laps down on Mediki, so to be playing blue flags waving, and Mediki has got the speed, so he shouldn't be making this as difficult as he is, as it looks like Mediki has gone past Marcus Flack. So that didn't need to be as difficult as it was, and that's compromised Mediki because their last lap time was a high 14 and he was running in the low 14s, so he's lost out some precious time here right in sort of that first pit stop sequence. But I don't think we're going to be too far away from seeing that Ford Mustang come into the lane.
No, 50 minutes have elapsed and they haven't stopped yet, so a couple of cars yet to stop. Mediki, Quinn, the 2 Loves haven't stopped yet, and neither has Peter Lawrence. Let's check in with Greg Rust.
Cam, I want to show you something. Nash Morris is about to go. You can see when Mark Griffith has come in this Merc, he's pulled up just a little bit further beyond the markings, the ideal markings that they have laid out in this pit lane where they want the wheels to line up. And what that meant, the pit stop still played out no problem at all, but it meant for the guys running the fueling system that the breather hose they needed to reach this side of the car was actually at full stretch. So you guys are talking about the little 1%ers. There was no problem, but just that little extra distance when Griffo pulled that car up made it a little bit harder for those doing the fuel stop.
Thank you, Greg Rust. He's at home, isn't he, Tom Randall? He's at home down there in pit lane, is Greg Rust. You never see someone happier. It's like a golden retriever at the beach. Mediki, Quinn, Love and Love. Your top 4 on track at the moment. As Mediki continues around. 51 minutes, it's longer first stint than we expected from George Mediki. He does have to stop 3 times in that car. So there'll be a shorter stop coming later. And remember, they do have some added times for several of these cars that they will only take in the final stop.
Mediki's just set a 13.9 on that last lap. That's a 10th of a second away from his fastest lap of the race. Meanwhile, Marcus Flack on that last lap was a 14.6. So he is faster at the moment than that McLaren. So it'd be interesting to see that. They're obviously tracking this as well, knowing that at the moment Mediki's setting faster laps than that McLaren. So I think at this point they'd want to just keep him out as long as possible, because when you've gone from sort of that first 40 minutes of the race not as fast as the McLaren, and now you're lapping quicker, you may as well try and bank that extra time.
We're talking a little bit earlier as well, Thomas, about this pace difference. Just look at, on our timing screen here, we can see the speed of that Mustang, 227 kilometres an hour, compared to Marcus Flack, 220. 7 kilometre an hour difference at that high end of speed, Cam, down that straight is genuinely incredible to think about when you think about how much pressure, Thomas, it has to try and push through.
Yeah, look, I'm not quite sure where the speed trap is. It could be potentially right in that braking zone. So if you've got a car that's braking a little bit later, it might be potentially a false reading. But if it is genuine, then yeah, that is that 7 k's an hour difference. And to be fair, we did speak about this in the coverage yesterday, that Ford has been bloody strong in a straight line. And on that last lap, I know we've been talking about it, but Morecambe was a fair way off that Mediki Ford as well. I know in the first 2 sectors alone, he was about a second slower than Mediki. So I think the Mediki car is well and truly aware of the pace differential at the moment.
We say that as well, but I've been looking at the split times for the Marcus Flack entry as well. So remember, they are loaded up on fuel. So they have gone to a higher load of fuel in those cars. Because I expected to see Marcus Flack a lot quicker than he was, and Mediki was putting a fair dent on him. He actually went past him, but this car will be getting much lower on fuel. It'll be a much faster car at the moment. He's getting caught up in a bit of traffic here, as is Marcus Flack in the background. So the question remains, when do they stop this car? We know Elliot Barber's on the radio. He's part of the team at Mediki Motorsport.
I think it's going to be pretty soon, because it looks like Morecambe's got those got himself up to temperature, got those tyres up to temperature, and now he's actually matching Mediki. So I'll just wind back the clock. So the speed trap's about the 300-metre board. So thanks to Crailsey for that insight. So they're definitely not on the brakes at the 300-metre board. So yeah, that's genuine. Mediki car does have the fastest top speed and was matched actually on that lap in terms of top speed to Tony Quinn. So that car being the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4, and it could be from that sneaky toe actually that he's getting off the Ford Mustang.
So we're approaching a third race distance. Welcome to those joining in as you wake up, including Matt Nolte on 7 Plus. George Mediki leads this race on track, but when it shakes out, it'll be the Method Motorsport McLarens leading this one. Nathan Morecambe at the wheel of the 24 and Marcus Flack at the wheel of the 25. As it stands right now, George Mediki running very long on his first stint. 3 stops they must complete. This is refueling in the race. They can choose any time to stop, but no driver can have more than 100 minutes at the wheel. Looking for some shorter stop times later. Running long, there's really been no detriment for the driver in George Mediki at 25.9 last time through the first sector. So he's gone quicker again in that first sector. He's 0.6 off the best we've seen, but he's dropped it down to the 25. So maybe this is a sign that he's on his way in. It's an in-lap. Tom.
Well, Ryland, remember, when he was interviewed by Greg Rust, that felt like a lifetime ago. That was about the 2 hours and 35-minute mark. So Ryland's been in that helmet with the balaclava, the hands device, the gloves, everything. He's been ready for so long. So he's probably cooking just himself, just standing there getting ready. He'd be itching to get in that car. So it's a long time being ready with your gear on.
Like being first drop on the Boxing Day test when the boys are smashing hundreds. You've got to sit there for a long time with the pads on.
Are you saying that you don't sit at home in your race suit, Thomas Randall?
Not that I'm aware of. So, but you know someone who does like wearing a race suit? Greg Rust. Unfortunately not in one now. He was in one before. We will be seeing him in a race suit later on as well, but let's head back down to him in the lane.
A little bit of work to the Astudi Love Mercedes during that pit stop a moment ago that was kind of outside the standard array of things that we would have seen them do. So the crew needed to get the battery-operated saw here and pull and cut away a part of the rear diffuser on that car. Now, I think if memory serves, we would have seen a replay or vision of that car early on in the race going through turn 1 and hitting the curbing, so it's damaged the diffuser on that car. Wasn't ideal. The officials had been keeping an eye on it, so they've cut that away during that last pit stop.
Thanks, Rusty.
We were just sitting here admiring Tom Randall's handiwork, linking down to you, Rusty. We're going to show ourselves out at the end of this race. 2 hours remaining. Mediki, Quinn, Love on track, but they are yet to stop. Peter Lawrence also yet to stop in the 33. Everyone else has taken the first of their 3 pit stops that are required. Yes, Tom?
Mediki, half a second faster than Morecambe on that lap again. So it's sort of evened out a little bit there, but he's still faster than that McLaren, and there'd be really no reason to pit right now when there could be a potential for an undercut here. With this, the gap was about 12 seconds before the pit stops, and Mediki's, I mean, he's driving a great stint now. You know, he knows the task at hand, and that Ford has obviously come to life, which is great. But down in the McLaren bunker, you've got guys like Sam Scafidi, who's Chaz Mostard's supercars engineer, so he's part of that program. He's in the bunker down there. He'll be telling their boys as well, hey, we could be on for a potential undercut here from Mediki.
One of the things to note is temperature here, and Greg Rust is still in that race suit. He's just got a jacket on, so that is our commentator's way of telling how cold it is in the shade, in pit lane. Rusty is still having his jacket on.
I was going to say, he's just come back from Europe, so we'll forgive him. So, tough life for some. Mediki, when will he stop is the question. Nearly an hour into this race.
That Ford's obviously pretty good on its fuel as well, and it's clearly very good on its tyres. A 14.8 that time by for Morecambe and a 14-1 for George Mediki. So he must have gained a fair bit of time here. We'll have to crunch some numbers and try and work out an estimate. But this first pit stop sequence, I'll tell you what, they've made a bit of ground back on both those McLarens because Marcus Flack is behind Morecambe, and that gap is, yeah, it's close between the two McLarens, but with Mediki punching out these numbers, you know, it's sort of evened out now. Morecambe's just done a 25.9 in the first sector and Mediki at 26.1. So I don't know whether Morecambe's struggling a little bit to just work out the consistencies of this McLaren, because he has shown some speed with these low 14s, but then he sort of blows out to high 14s, and I think that inconsistency is what the Ford and the team there with George Mediki behind the wheel are going to have to capitalise on.
One of the difficult parts of this, especially a track like this, is traffic. As you can see just on screen right now, it's a 25 there of Marcus Flack just getting caught out. The McLaren doesn't have the same horsepower as we see in some of the other cars in category there, make up their speed mainly through mid-corner, although it makes light work of the 32 of John Bowe down the main straight. But they do have different strengths and weaknesses, and the challenge as well is, did the other car, with the McLaren being so low, being such a small car, do some of these other drivers that they're lapping actually see them, and do you take your time just going past them?
I mean, I think you've got to take your time passing them. And when you've got a 3-hour race, 2 hours to go, you're in the contention for a potential victory. There's really no need to rush a pass because anything can happen with an hour and 56 minutes remaining. So we have seen in the past in endurance racing where you have leaders outright that have come together with lap cars, and I mean, it's kind of a driver's worst nightmare alongside of you know, failed brake pedal, throttle jamming on, all those sorts of things, and then come together with a lap car while in contention. Now, this Randall BMW, just to confirm, I'm not related, but they've come into the lane, and that is the number 33 of Pete Lawrence, and that will be handing over to Jamie Augustine. We also saw the Tony Quinn Porsche. They pitted on the previous lap, and now McCutcheon has taken over driving duties in that vehicle.
So main driver in all cars, or I should say first listed driver, driver one in all cars other than car 35 in first place, car 17, and also the Hughes car. Actually, I should say Peter Lawrence handing over to Jamie Augustine, so we're nearly through with all of them. But continuing on, there's the 3. That's Ryder Quinn. We spoke with him earlier. Said that he'd fence his grandfather if he saw him on the track.
Well, technically, he didn't actually. It was
that
more
was
of
what
like
I took out of the conversation.
Oh, we all took it out. We all took that out of the conversation. It was a bit of a no comment from Ryder there. But let's head back down the lane with Rusty and see if he's got a bit of an update for us.
You asked about Ryder Quinn. I've got his granddad good to go. So how was the stint, boss? Are we happy?
No, it was fine. I mean, it's good. That time of the morning suits me. I don't like the afternoon stuff. It's time for a nap in the afternoon. But no, that was good. It's a 3-hour race.
I mean, it looked from what I was seeing on the pit wall, Tony, like everything was, you know, just smooth. You were hitting the marks and the car seemed good.
Yeah, I mean, I could hear Donald, but they couldn't hear me. So I don't know what, because in the beginning the radio wasn't working. So anyway.
I am under strict instructions from our colleagues that run the New Zealand circuits who are watching the coverage today to not pump your tyres up too much.
No, my tyres are fully inflated.
Hey, go and enjoy a little something to eat, thank you. There he is, Tony Quinn. Just while we're on that too, guys, a little bit of activity just starting around the Mediki Motorsport team, around that Mustang. No sign of it in the lane yet, but I could see Ryland Gray limbering up a moment ago, and Chris O'Toole and some of the crew there tell me maybe 5 laps. We might get another 5 laps out of it. Pretty impressive stint from George.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rusty. That's, I don't know if that's code, 5 laps. It could be more like 2 laps, could be 8 laps. So I think that could be leading you on there. But
if it's anything like the 5 laps to go, they gave Nathan Hearn 3 times yesterday in race 1 for Trans Am. He may be in for a longer stint there. Just saw before Bailey Love came in, he'll be handing over to Sam Brabham for his drive, and George Miedeke continues for another lap. There he is, the 35, the Lubramax Ford Mustang.
I mean, he's still punching out low 14s, whereas Morecambe's mid 14s. So although it's, I mean, 3/10 of a lap, it's still time that he is gaining on these McLarens. So
this is what you keep him out there. If you're in the flow, the car's going well, there's no need to change him. You can always stop and do a short stint later in the race. You've opened it up as well. Any safety car that might happen here. And they've put themselves in the box seat so far with a very, very strong stint from George Miedeke. And I'm actually looking forward to the chat Rusty has with him when he gets out of the car, because he's a big man, the old George Miedeke. He'll be putting in the effort. He'll be sweating heavily at the brow. I know he's a fit guy, but still, it's no mean feat to do an hour and 5 at race pace out there in a GT4 car, Tom.
Now, I'll be interested to see what they do with this car in terms of strategy with the tyres, because they've been out there for 65 minutes on that set of tyres. So we've seen with the McLarens and pretty much every other team, all they did was tyre pressures, but they pitted a lot earlier. So quite interested to see what they do. There's going to be a lot of fuel going on board this Ford Mustang GT4. Once again, 14.3 last time by for Miedeke, 14.28 for Morecambe. So I think the lap traffic, as we've touched on, is playing a little bit of a part in this differential in lap time between Morecambe and Miedeke.
You also have to feel for some of the lap traffic as well. When you're out there on track, you know they're coming. What you don't want to do, particularly these drivers in AM class cars, you don't want to be in anyone else's race. So it's an actual art, not only passing the traffic, but being passed. And what a lot of these drivers are told is stay on your line. Do not get out of the way. The faster driver will find a way through. And Tom, who's driven many cars, he's just crunching some numbers with Richard Crail in the background here. I'll bring you in, James. We've been talking amongst ourselves a fair bit. I should be bringing you back in. I do realise you're there, James Baldwin.
Thanks, Cam.
But we just you get a bit caught up with these sorts of races. Over 3 hours, a lot of strategies that unfold.
It's great to have
25.
Thomas.
Yeah, I was going to say Marcus Flack. He's on screen at the moment. The times he's been doing in that car probably aren't what I expected from him. He's 2.1 laps down, whereas Nathan Morecambe is 1.9. So just inside 2 laps down on George Miedeke. An hour and 7 in, hour and 50 remaining. 3 pit stops still to go for Miedeke, only 2 to go for Morecambe and Flack.
Now, it's been nearly half an hour since the 25 of Marcus Flack pitted, and nearly 20 minutes since the 24 pitted. So we were talking about even stints, 45 minutes. And at this point in the race, Miedeke hasn't even pitted yet. So I'm really interested to see the difference in strategy between Miedeke and Morecambe. And the other thing we've got to talk about as well is obviously maximum driver time. So 67 minutes of the race have gone by so far. So 67 out of 100 for Miedeke. So I'm starting to think, this is just me thinking here, that are they going to try and run Miedeke and do...
Yeah, they're going to double stint him. I've got no doubt in my mind they're double stinting him through here. Crailsy's looking he's looking bemused. Bring James in. I keep trying to bring you in, James, and we're just talking amongst ourselves. Do you think they're going to double stint George Miedeke?
Well, I don't think they can, because they do have to change the driver in the stop. So
that's right.
But what they wanted, I would like to assume, is just try and get as much driving done out of Miedeke. But I mean, he's still punching out 14.2s. That is seriously impressive from a driver point of view, and the car and the tyres. I mean, he was punching out 14.2s at the start of the, earlier on in the race. His fastest lap was a 13.89, and he's only 3/10 off that. And this is 1 hour and 8 minutes into the race. We've done 51 laps. 51 laps on a set of tyres, and he's punching out pretty much the same lap times that he was doing at the start of the race. That's seriously impressive. So you can see Ryland there. He's been waiting. I feel like he's been waiting since last Christmas to get in behind the wheel of this Mustang.
Well, it doesn't look to be limbering up too much. We have many eyes down in pit lane in this Lubramax entry, keeping an eye on to see when Miedeke will come in. But I tell you what, to see this pace of this car, Thomas, you're obviously part of the Ford family in Australia, and the fantastic arrival of this brilliant car at Phillip Island, the celebration of Mustang. was just an absolutely mega weekend for Ford. I'm sure that was the case within your circles. To see the consistent pace that he's able to put in and sort of move on, I suppose, from yesterday too, is genuinely impressive, Cam.
No, it's been great. I'm thinking with that driver change, though, coming back to the strategy, James, is do they run... Like, if they keep running long stints, they've got a lot of stop time coming at the back end of this race.
I mean, why would you pit, you know, when you're still setting out those lap times?
100%, but you still, at some stage you do. You've got 3 of them, you've got to lock away. We're a long way into this race.
We are. Now, just back on your point, James, about the Ford Mustang. These guys opened their account in Phillip Island with double victory. This year, celebrating 60 years of the Ford Mustang as well. So the thing about Ford and Ford Performance globally is that they really get behind their motorsport. And Mark Rushbrook, the whole team at Ford Performance, they'll be watching this race, no doubt. I know the guys over there, they love their motorsport. And our assistant reporter, who we probably haven't spoken about too much, Chloe Duke, she said she went down to the Medici garage and asked Elliot Barber about the strategy, and he's keeping his lips sealed on that one too.
It's also because he's got no voice at the moment, Elliot Barber. He's lost his voice, but you don't have anything to do with Ford at all, do you, Tom? No,
I'm not quite sure, actually. Let me just check my emails.
We do normally need to declare any allegiances, Tom. No, great to hear from you, and it was a wonderful weekend at Phillip Island. What I will say, and jump in, really been appreciating Ford supporting motorsport. Ben Nightingale obviously looking after a lot of the motorsport activity for Ford, but even the super van at the Grand Prix, some of the lap records that were set in different places. When Ford is behind the sport properly, the sport is going well. So it is great to see them so heavily involved. And I know that they were paying very much attention to Phillip Island when this got the first ever pole position for a Ford Mustang GT4 globally in GT racing, and that was here in little old Australia. And Andrew Medici was very proud to tell me that he was getting phone calls from HQ, giving him a big pump up of the Medici Motorsport tyres.
Well, you know what Ford like? They like winning. And that's exactly what these guys have been able to do this year with this car. So Jim Farley, the CEO of the Ford Motor Company, he's a massive racer, gets behind the wheel, and
Jim was actually at Goodwood that same weekend racing with Andrew Medici's old co-driver. So he made the phone call to him. So there you go. All right, we digress. Let's go back to the actual racing. Hour and 45 minutes, and George Medici is into lap 478,000.
Now, Ryder Quinn, as we know, is back behind the wheel of this BMW. He's doing mid-13s, so he's about 9/10, he was 9/10 per second a lap faster than Medici out there at the moment. But Medici still punching out decent lap times. I'd say, you've got to say now is probably the time to pit.
We're just getting told by Chloe Duke, as he said. Special shout out to you, Chloe. Thank you for being our eyes and ears on the ground. That the Medici team are getting ready to bring this Mustang in. 1 hour, 45 minutes to go. This has been a mega stint by Medici. And boy, hasn't he done well. This is just playing into the strategy, I think, and I think Richard Crail thinks so as well for Ford. And here he comes, Thomas Randall.
Now, got to nail the pit stop sequence. Hit your marks, get the car down to 40 k's an hour. Coming into the lane here, stop on your board. Rusty spoke about how important that is due to the refueling, because if you overshoot your pit stop or undershoot it, it's going to make life very challenging. Cameron.
What's important to remember is when they started the pit stops, it was 13.6 seconds between first and third. So 13.6 seconds. When he rolls back out, Greg Rust, it'll be interesting to see just how much of a dent Medici put into the Method Motorsport McLarens in that long stint.
The other thing we've got to factor in is that compensation time later in the race.
All right, Rusty.
Cam, this is all going really smoothly, as you would expect. There's no need to rush. Chris O'Toole watching on the other side. At the front of the car is Elliot Barber. Thumbs up from him a moment ago. I tell you what is interesting for me, and maybe it's out of my line of sight at the moment, I cannot see tyres for this car. At the moment, only fuel. Ryland Gray is already strapped in. George is just making sure that that's all done. We might sneak out of their way while this stop happens and try and get a word with George once he's clear of the stop. That's an amazing stint, and I don't think they're repressuring tyres here, but I don't see a new set of boots going on this car. Just let George get his helmet off here for a moment. So all okay at the front from Elliot Barber. So this is seemingly going to plan here at the moment, guys. So how was that stint for you? Was it the plan to go that long?
Yeah, not completely, but once the two McLarens pitted, I think our relative pace was really quite good. So we have a lot of flexibility because obviously, you know, I'm going pretty well and Ryland's going great, so we can afford to do those things. But yeah, car feels pretty good. I think a couple of little changes could help it out. The tyre pressures probably, I think, blew out a little bit there at the end, but we're in good shape.
Well, I mean, to underscore that point, the commentators were talking about some of the lap times you were doing in the latter part of the stint. It seems as though you haven't changed tyres by the looks of it here. It seems as though it's holding on to them pretty well, George.
Yeah, it seems to. I feel like right at the end I lost a little bit, but otherwise I was within a tenth or two the whole run, and I think that's a real credit to the team and the work that we've done in getting the car right on Thursday.
How do you feel? I mean, that's a big chunk of time for you behind the wheel. I know you love it, right? But this is a category that's growing pressure around it. There's been a lot of interest from what you've done here with Ford this year.
Absolutely. I mean, look, you can see on my face I'm driving my ass off, but I'm loving it. You know, it's so good. So one of the things about these cars is while they're a real race car and they're very, very cool, you've still got to drive them hard. And that's where you see, obviously, the difference between the AMs and the pros. But, yeah, I feel pretty good. You know, honestly, I can get back into it again, no problem.
We'll go back to the other commentators there.
Oh, Rusty, I was actually going to say stay with George. He actually did an incredible job. Tom Randall, James and I were looking at it. He gained 5 seconds on the McLarens as a result of that. So awesome effort by George Miedeke and great decision. Tom, what we just heard there as well is that they adjusted their strategy once they saw the relative pace with the second drivers, or the driver number 1, as they're listed on the charts, jumped in early on the McLarens. And the team moved its strategy when they saw that relative pace, he was either there with them or ahead of them, and they've gained 5 seconds as a result.
5 seconds in racing is like a lifetime, Cameron. So to gain that time, that's really going to help later in the race too. And once Ryland gets comfortable behind the wheel, you know, I reckon for Ryland it might take him a lap or two. He's going to be laying down some good times, and I can really see this car challenging before the next pit stop sequence as well.
He's been in that race suit for about an hour, I reckon, ready to go. And so mentally, I'm sure he is absolutely ready to be here as we see him out of turn 2 down to turn 3. And a nice shot of our guests here at Eventelec Race Queensland. Great to have you trackside too. I hope you're enjoying the action, and of course all of our viewers on 7+. And as we saw this sort of unfold in pit lane, Thomas Randall, you said, yep, but Gray's getting into the car. The pace that he set yesterday was just incredible.
Indeed. And one thing we want to note as well, that car, as we know, just pitted, so he's going to have a lot of fuel on board that Mustang relative or compared to these McLarens who have been out there for quite some time now, and they're probably, well, not far off considering their next pit stop, because they've sort of done the more traditional route that we discussed of that splitting the strategies, whereas the Ryland Gray and Miedeke Mustang, they pitted an hour and 15 minutes roughly into the race. So they've still got an hour 40 minutes to go, and they need to pit 2 more times.
Just looking at some of the other drivers in the order outside of the top 3 that we've been talking about. Lockie Manif, the leader of the Pro-Am, he's driving with Shane Smollen. They're in 4th place outright. They're 32 seconds off the lead, 21 seconds off the back of Ryland Gray in 3rd place for an outright podium position. Aaron Seaton, he's at the wheel of his entry as well, and he's dropping back and at risk of getting lapped at some stage during this stint, which would mean that our leaders, well, they've already lapped to 6th place at the moment in Ryder Quinn. They're rapidly moving. As you saw the 24, they just dip a wheel off, going around the 33 of Jamie Augustine.
Now, Marcus Flack, that car pitted 38 minutes into the race, and we've completed an hour 20. So this stint has been longer for them than their first stint. Another note, Sam Brabham is about not that far off. I think he's just got past John Bowe, actually. Just made the move on John Bowe.
So Sam Brabham, a long way back in the order. He's currently 4th in Pro-Am, chasing down McCutcheon for a spot on the podium in the Pro-Am class. The gap there, still got a significant time gap, 29.1 seconds Sam Brabham has to make up if he wants to get a spot on the podium in Pro-Am.
Now, Morecambe lost a lot of time on that last lap trying to get past lap traffic. He was about 1.5 seconds slower than Marcus Flack. That gap has come down to about 4.8 seconds. And Ryland Gray still just sort of coming up to temperature, just getting in the rhythm with that Ford Mustang. He's about 0.4 of a second away in the first sector on Morecambe. But Marcus Flack, 0.2 quicker in the first sector on this lap to Morecambe. So I think Marcus has got a little bit of pace up his sleeve here, and those McLarens, we saw how close they got before the pit stop sequence. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play this one in that middle part of the race.
Hour 37 to go. Strategy absolutely key in this 3-hour-long run of the Monochrome GT4. We're very lucky to have Thomas Randall alongside us to talk about this, what is genuinely a very interesting long-form race, especially for the Shannon Speed Series. Bit of an outlier of the other shorter races, the snappier races that we get to enjoy for the rest of today. And of course, we enjoyed yesterday as well. We were just talking a little bit earlier there about Ryland Gray just settling into what will now be a rhythm, getting the car where he wants it to be, and probably returning to the pace that we saw yesterday.
Lachlan Manif, leader in the Pro-Am. He's doing a cracking job. He's about 25 seconds, or actually a bit longer, over 30 seconds in front of Ryder Quinn, who's second in class in the Pro-Am, and they're sort of trading similar lap times. So that Manif car, the Porsche, run by Method Motorsport. So Method Motorsport leading in both the Pro-Am and the Silver. Now let's head back down to the lane with Rusty.
Tom, why don't we keep that flavour going, because you've been talking about Lockie Manif there in that Porsche. This is Shane Smolin, who's just have you got a little issue there with the earpieces, or is everything all the end of? Oh, no. The run so far, we're about halfway through this race. How are things going?
Yeah, car's good. It was the first thing was good. Once we got through the initial traffic, we were sort of, I could see the Mustang on the same part of the corner, so I thought that was a good judge. No, it was a clean stint. We probably put a little bit too much fuel in, so Lockie's running a touch heavy. But he's hanging in there. At the end of the day, we're there to win Pro-Am, but if we can hang on to the back of the Silvers, we'll take it.
It's nice that you've woven him into the mix this year. What's the addition of Lockie been like?
Yeah, he's a great kid. I mean, he's super enthusiastic. He's talented. He's passionate. He's a self-starter. He's out there. He's raising his money. He's building relationships. Really quality guy, and that's the sort of young fella you want in the pits with you.
You know what this style of racing is like. You've done it for some time, and you really enjoy it. You know what it takes to succeed. What is it that keeps bringing you back to this style of kind of GT4 competition?
Look, these cars give you, I guess, a lot of the bang for the buck. That a lot of the enjoyment that you'd get from a GT3 car. Not quite the same level as Sheep Stations, not quite the same level of budget, but a really sophisticated factory-built race car. The BOP generally works quite well, and as you can see, there's not many safety cars, not a lot of damage. People can be in the mid-pack and not fear for their lives too much, but a really high level of racing and a good car that they typically finish races.
Final questions for you. Just give us a little sense of the plan in the final 90 minutes or thereabouts here for you guys, and what it's like to be a part of the Method Motorsport operation. We've talked a bit in the coverage so far about the McLarens, but you're very much a part of it, aren't you?
Yeah, very much. Look, it's equal. I mean, the McLarens are Chaz's cars, but I can assure you that he's there to win 2 titles, and it's as a customer of Chaz's, he's giving it 110%. So you're seeing a different Chaz to the guy that you might see at the mucking around in the front of the pits in the V8s. Although, having said that, he's always fair dinkum when the lid goes on. But that's what he's like. He's a knockabout guy, but with an extraordinary amount of ability and insight. And the advice he's given us so far has been invaluable.
Enjoy the rest of the race. Thanks, Shane.
Well done, Rusty. Great chat there with Shane Smolin. We head back to the front. Tom Randall and I've just been having a look at some of the numbers and all the good work done by George Medici, and this is not Ryland Gray's fault as a result of the car bringing itself back into race contention, but as it's washed out, this may be only a 1.4 second gain they've had from the Mustang from the McLarens. So Morecambe, Flack and Gray, your top three in outright, top three in silver class. We just heard there from the leader in Pro-Am, and we'll also check in at John Bow is still leading the Am class, 9th outright as well.
Obviously a big delta on the fuel level for that Mustang and the McLarens. The McLarens would be probably a lot less, or not much left in the tank now. They've been out there for quite some time, and Ryan's car, you know, there's plenty of fuel in that car. So I don't know if the Mustang's as strong on a full tank compared to when it was running sort of mid to low fuel. So, you know, with more fuel in the car, obviously the car is going to want to move around. With that fuel, it's kind of an unknown weight. It's not fixed to the floor or any part of the car. The fuel moves around. It's changing the COG, the center of gravity of the car. So us drivers, we like it when it's low fuel. Another thing it does with a high fuel, normally tends to give the car a little bit more understeer because it's got more weight in the back, raises the front up. So I'd say at the moment, Roland Grays might be struggling a little bit with that amount of fuel. As
this is getting messy.
It is.
Out on track, a little bit of traffic playing into it.
That's Ryder Quinn.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was just watching Ryder Quinn. He's giving the hurry up absolutely to Nathan Morecambe. He's trying to unlap himself, and he wants to get through.
Now, if Morecambe's smart here, he'll just let him by because he is faster at the moment. That is Ryder Quinn, and there's really no point trying to hold him up and also risk any potential damage at all. And it's only going to slow him down as well. So the last thing that Morecambe needs...
Oh, he's looking up the inside, and Morecambe left the door open. So Ryder Quinn through, has unlapped himself, and at half race distance. So Ryder Quinn back onto the lead lap, but a lot of work to do. That could have been a critical move if we do see a safety car at this point in time buying himself back into this race. But the 24, your race leader, Nathan Morecambe, just letting him past. Didn't make it easy though for Ryder Quinn, did he?
Didn't, no, but look at the gap now. 2 seconds between the two McLarens, 1.9. Now that was about 7 seconds when Ryland Gray came out of the pits not too long ago. So I'll tell you what, Cameron, this is heating up once again between these two McLarens as Marcus Flack puts a move on the Porsche. Just goes another lap down, unfortunately, but these McLarens, 2 seconds the gap. And Roland Gray, as you said, Cam, that time that Mediki gained on the McLarens in that first stint has sort of gone away because now it's back to about that 12.5 second gap. But we do have to remember as well, they have that compensation time in the final stint, which is a 10-second difference between the Ford and the Method Motorsport.
Our window for next pit stops is open at the moment. Our window for pit stops is open. That's probably a really good time for us to check in at the Trico Tech Centre. Our good mate Richard Crail gave us the strategy readings off the top of this race. Crailsy, how are you seeing it unfold?
Cam, Thomas, thank you. Thought we'd bring you up to speed as we get to half race distance here at Queensland Raceway, and what's been a pretty compelling Monochrome GT4 race. And right now there's two strategies playing out in this. There's the two McLarens, and then there's the Mustang. Now the McLarens are very much mirroring what a bulk of the field have done. So Tom Heyman pitted car 25, 38 minutes into the race. Shortest first stint of everybody. Tom McLennan came in 10 minutes later, and that was to give Method Motorsport a bit of separation in pit lane, so it doesn't get too busy all at once. As we've seen with the Mustang, though, it's been a different story, and they've pushed that car very deep into the race, and I think that's key for a couple of reasons. We talked at the start about the fact it's a 180-minute race, and no driver can do more than 100 minutes in it. They've bought themselves 7 minutes there, so there's only 107 minutes to fill. So George Medeki's second stint in the race could be as short as 6 laps, maybe a little bit more, if they need it. So what they've bought themselves by going so long in their opening stint, because George is so fast, is they've bought themselves flexibility. So their last couple of stints are going to be really interesting. And I think what the Mustang team might be doing as well, I suspect you'll see them fill that car in the next stint, because we know now it can go more than half race on a tank of fuel because they've just ticked that over. So I think they'll fill the car at the next stop. They could burn it at the last stop if they need to, but you don't want the car too heavy as well. I think they'll fill that car up. They know they'll run to the end, and then in their final stop, after a very short second stint from George Miedeke, which could be as short as 20 minutes, Ryland Gray will go in, and I suspect they put some tyres on that car for the final stint. So what you'll have at the end, even if they don't have track possession, is they'll have a fired up Ryland Gray. They could put fresh left-hand side tyres on the Ford Mustang, and then even if they don't have track position to the two McLarens, they could hunt them down and chase them towards the end of the race. So I think that's what the Ford team is doing towards the end of that. So Nathan Morecambe continues to lead the race. Second place, Marcus Flack, and Ryland Gray next. Now, much like coffee in the commentary team, balance of performance is the glue that binds GT racing together, and we've got some graphics for you to explain how that all works. So BOP is measured on a series of weight adjustments, ride height adjustments, air restrictions in the inlet to the engine, and ECU settings for the turbocharged cars especially, that control boost pressure and boost settings in those cars. So they're very adaptable, and it's a global system. So SRO, the governing body of global GT racing, take these numbers from all around the world and get a matrix together and some secret squirrel magic formulas, and it all works out that a Ford Mustang that can weigh 1,520 kilos in BOP weight this weekend can compete evenly with a 1,380 kilo Porsche Cayman 718. The Ford's got the engine hanging out over the front axle. The Cayman's engine behind the driver, mid-engine car, completely different balance, different characteristics in producing speed. The ride heights are phenomenal. The Mustang sits 85 mil higher in the rear axle than the Porsche. Different air restrictors, the amount of air you can cram into the engine, that's how you produce horsepower. But the net result is that just about everybody in the top 10 has lapped within 0.6 of a second in this race. It's a little bit of a dark art sometimes. Sometimes we don't know how it works, but balance of performance is the glue that holds long-distance GT racing. I don't think it's ever perfect, but it's a really good system, and it opens the competition up to different makes, different brands, different models in long-distance racing, especially like this. So, to summarise, before we go back to our commentators, the Ford team in a really good position at the moment because they've back-ended their race. They've got the most flexibility of everybody in this field in the second half of this race, which we're in now. The McLarens are a little bit more traditional in how they play this out, but they're very much in the window now for their second round of pit stops. But I like this. It's balanced really well. The top three cars are all on different strategies, and I think the net result will be that with 10 minutes to go, they're all going to be jammed together on the racetrack, battling it out as we go back to our commentators.
Thank you very much, Richard Crail in the Trico Tech Centre. Appreciate his updates. Hopefully we'll hear from him a little later on, and I'm looking forward to the back end of this race as much as he is. As we see, John Bowe did come into the pits, Barry Clinton back into the pits, and we saw Nash Morris come in before as well. So we're starting to go through this second cycle of pit stops. The question is, which of the McLarens will blink first and come back in, Tom Randall?
Well, this is your battle for the lead, Cameron. It's there on your screens. Less than 1 second between Morecambe and Flack, down to 0.7 of a second. And just touching on what Crailsey said about the BOP, the differences between the Porsche and the Ford, as we saw on the graphics. I mean, just the ride heights alone, massive. But then the lap times. The fastest lap time for the race for Manif in the Porsche at 13.7. Fastest lap for the Mustang at 13.8. So 1/10 of a second between those two cars with that difference between those cars. And that just really shows that the BOP, you've got to say, is pretty close.
So it's getting word now that the 25 is about to come in. So Marcus Flack will come in, I believe, at the end of this lap, getting several messages from pit lane. Thank you to everybody that's watching 7+ and listening in. Appreciate all the support. I can see your phone lighting up as well, Tom. So we're getting word now as they make their way down to turn 4 and 5 that we believe the car in second place. The Methodist Motorsport McLaren, Marcus Flack, will be the first to pit. McCutcheon in as well, out of position number 8 in the 101. So it's tidying up the cars, making their way through the infield. The gap between the two leaders, remember this number, 0.8 seconds is the gap between first and second. The 25 stays around for another lap. So maybe some games going on in pit lane at the moment, but the Methodist Motorsport McLaren, we see a fair bit of smoke coming off the tyres, sorry, the brakes of the 101, which is the McCutcheon entry. It's Mark Griffith now out on track, passes the Bow and Linton cars that are still stopped in their pit stop. We welcome back James Baldwin to the commentary box. I know you've been watching on. Which would you rather be behind the wheel of right now? The Method Motorsport McLarens with their strategy, or in the Mediki Motorsports Mustang?
Genuinely for me, Cam, I think could go either way here, which is what I'm loving so far about this, the strategy playing out here in this race. The McLarens, though, just have this speed earlier in the day compared to when we were racing yesterday. I'm being told now that Beneath.
Yeah, so he'll be handing over to Shane Smollen very shortly, the leader of our Pro-Am. So we've got a Pro-Am driver now leading. Sorry, our leading Pro-Am driver in the pits. I was trying to do 3 things in my mind, and being male, I can only do 2 things at once. And that's not thinking and talking. As we see the 25 of Marcus Flack finally stopping. I believe there's 2 tyres about to go on that car, so we'll keep an eye on the pit stop.
Talking about the pit stop, and in the pits, let's go down to Greg Rust.
So, James, it looks like they have left-hand side tyres, so the working side of the McLaren on standby. We'll keep an eye on that for you. Tom Heyman getting ready to jump in. Marcus Flack is out of the car. Now, while we're watching this pit stop, a little update for you, a conversation that I've just chanced on between Paul Morris and Motorsport Australia officials. Now, at this point, there is no penalty, but there is an inquiry happening into potentially having more people working on the car than is allowed. Now, I'm not saying that's happened, right, because Paul's defending that pretty vigorously, and they're saying they did the same plan, the same amount of people when they did their first stop, when Nash first took over from Mark Griffith, and they didn't get a penalty at that stage. So, but there is a bit of a question mark happening down there at the moment, just in relation to the rules and how many people are allowed to work on the car during these stops in Monochrome GT4.
Well done, Rusty. Good pick up down there. Now, to give those viewers that are not aware of Paul Morris's history, if anyone knows the rules and a loophole in the rules, it's Paul Morris. I take you back, if you've got memories and Supercars fans, many moons ago, Paul Morris was running Steve Owen in Supercars, and they ran just one soft compound tyre, one hard compound tyre, ran the rest softs because the rules didn't say how many of the other compound you had to run. So Paul Morris knows every loophole that's in there. I'm not saying he's going to get away with it, but if there's a person to bet on knowing the rules well, it's Paul Morris.
Absolutely. So the 25, as we just spoke about and Rusty picked up on, left-hand side tyres for that car, and the 24, as we're being told, is also getting ready to pit. So they're not going to trip over themselves. They're going to wait till that 25 is back out on the track, which is going to be very shortly. He just sits and waits for the call of when to leave his pit box. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, this stop number 2, is 155 seconds, so no compensation time in this second stop, but the 24 still circling. You'd have to say, guys, is going to do one more lap at least before he pits, as we can see the 25 coming down the lane. And Ryland Gray still circling with still about 19 seconds off the Nathan Morcom car. And just remember, they did fill that car up. So let's head back down to the lane with Rusty.
Tom, while we're chatting away here, looks like Aaron Seaton has come in. I think Camilleri jumping back behind the wheel of the Merc. I've just had a word to Chaz Mostert, who's back on the pit wall there for Method Motorsport, and the message I double-checked with him, it looked like only the working side of that McLaren in the stop. In fact, they did change 4 tyres, so 4 tyres rather have been changed on the 25.
Good pick up there, Rusty. Thank you very much. This is why we've got an absolute expert down there in pit lane, Queensland Raceway, and he's very happy to be buried amongst all of the action in the pit lane for GT4. So just running through who's in the pits at the moment. Aaron Seaton is back in the pits. Ryder Quinn also in the pits. Remember, Ryder Quinn managed to unlap himself just towards the end of that stint. We see race leader Nathan Morcom now making his way back into pit lane for Method Motorsport. The gap between the two McLarens when that pit stop happened before was 0.8 seconds. When they come out, we'll see whether there's been much of a change between that time.
I'm excited to see what they do here in terms of a tyre strategy. So, great pickup from Rusty. 4 tyres on the 25. Let's see what they do on the 24.
James Baldwin is riding it in here. I saw him actually put the virtual fuel in from the commentary box as well, mate.
This longer-term strategy, lads, is just so brilliant to play out. And we're talking a little bit earlier, Richard Crail said at the top of the show, changing the working side tyres of these cars from a timing point of view might be incredibly important, but it's such a great pickup there from Rusty. All of those tyres being changed, and as Thomas Randall said, very likely the Method Motorsport McLarens, we're going to see a very similar strategy. Tyres being wheeled out in the background there.
So, the man on the spot watching this pit stop, Greg Rust.
Cam, it's 4 on this car as well, so we'll try and get a word with Nathan Morecambe in a minute, but they are doing 4 tyres on the 24, so things going pretty smoothly so far. I'll try and get out of the way of the crew here and see if we can't have a word to Nathan while this stop is being completed. How was the stint for you?
It was good. It's definitely getting warm out there now, but the car felt good. Getting a bit high tyre pressure then, but obviously Tom's getting in now. We're putting new tyres on, so that'll be good for it, and hopefully that goes to the end. But the car's competitive out there, just who's got to be careful with the brakes, but we can still brake late. We just got to make them cool. So.
What about the battle relative to the Mustang? They've run longer in their stint with George Medicki at the top of this race. Different game plan for you guys. What about the remainder of this 3 hour? How are you going to tackle it?
Yeah, I think we've all played a different game plan, but it's only really a 10-minute, 15-minute window we can do it. So I think, honestly, by the time we get our handicap for the last stop, we'll probably come out even or have to hunt them down.
So final question for you. Have you enjoyed this whole experience? It's like, Nathan, that it's given you a bit of, revitalised you in a little while.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome experience. I can't thank Chaz enough and Rondo Building Services enough. But, yeah, it's awesome to be back out racing and we're going to keep going.
Let you enjoy the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rusty. Now, one interesting thing to note, we talk about the UV a little bit. The UV from now, since the start of the race, is about 5 times more. So rapidly increasing to probably, we're not far off the maximum UV we're going to reach today. So the track is getting hotter. It's about 16 degrees ambient temperature. We'll get a track temperature for you shortly, but the two McLarens now completed their pit stops, and we'll see the gap is about 4 seconds between McLennan and Heyman. So he's obviously made a little bit of hay while the sun is shining out there.
Brand new tyres put on, so he's been up to speed on some brand new tyres. The strategy for Method Motorsport is running a race of 2 halves on tyres, so brand new on both of them. And as a result of that undercut, for want of a better term, he's been able to find just under 4 seconds, or just over 4 seconds, I should say, of a gap between the two of them. That'll level out James Baldwin as we go deeper into the race.
Well, lads, just hearing that pit stop you were talking about a little bit earlier with Morris, message from Motorsport Australia Race Control was compliant. The red armband person is allowed to do what they did, so good to know that.
As I said, if there is ever a person that understands the rule book, is Paul Morris. So good pick up there though by Rusty to see this happen sometimes at in these races. Motorsport Australia are entitled to ask the question. They act on the reports that are coming from their spotters in pit lane. And so good news for the Morris family that they were compliant. Tom, you picked up on something.
So track temp, thanks to Pirelli down in the lane, is 20 degrees. So just remember, folks, the race started under 10 degrees track temp, hence why we have the extra formation lap. So the track temperature has really risen along with that UV as well. And the gap now between the two McLarens after the pit stops, and now we've crossed a few of the sector timing lines, is down to half a second. So this race is on between these McLarens, and if they start battling at this point in the race, this is only going to bring Ryland Gray back into contention. And we know that they've obviously put a lot of fuel on board that Mustang as well. They had a very long first stint for that car with Madeki behind the wheel, who drove a brilliant first stint, made up about 5 seconds of time on those McLarens. Didn't really put a foot wrong, so we know that that Mustang comes on pretty strong towards the end of its stints. And this really is the battle for the lead, guys, as we can see on our camera screens here as they're approaching some lap traffic.
The battle for the lead now, but we've got a lot more to unfold in this race. 1 hour, 13 minutes to go. We're seeing a bit of dust kicked up. Don't go too far. We'll be back with more on the other side of this. It's intensifying out on track at the moment between the two Method Motorsport McLarens. McLennan leads from Heyman. They're in their own battle. But Rylan Gray on board the Mediki Motorsport Mustang. He's staying out there. Look how close they are now. The pressure really being applied now by Heyman. McLennan trying to hold him out. This is for a potential race win with still 1 hour and 12 to go.
McLennan covering, but with 1 hour and 12 to go, I mean, he's not going to be able to cover for 1 hour and 12 minutes of this race. There's quite a bit of debris down there at the last corner, a bit of dust, and you can actually see offline the rubber that's building up. So these guys are going to be careful not to go offline here, because it's very easy to do. Momentary lapse in concentration, even at turn 2 there, lots of rubber that flies off the cars. It's a lot of build-up, and that's the gap. 0.4 of a second. They're just passing small lap traffic.
A big shout out, despite I'm having a look at Sam Brabham, personal best first sector. Looking at his sector times at the moment, he's matching it, if not eclipsing or surpassing Rylan Gray right now. So huge shout out to Sam Brabham in Pro-Am, doing a great job.
And interesting to add to that, Sam Brabham 14.3, Shane Smolin 15.9, and that is the effective leader in the Pro-Am. So he's about 1.5 seconds quicker than that Pro-Am car. So this could be on between the Pro-Am cars as well for the lead.
So just watching the move now down into turn 6, I should say. Well, you haven't missed much on 7th place, but it's heating up out on track at the moment between our 2 leaders of the track. Once it all levels out right now, they're sitting a lot further down the order in 3rd and 4th on track, but they are your effective race leaders. They've been duking it out in that ad break. Tom McLennan and Heyman, 24 and 25, the Method Motorsport McLarens. They've been very close to trading paint, and it's getting closer still. Down in turn 3, side by side. We came back just at the right time. Heyman not able to get the job done just yet. He'll try again up at turn 4. Still 1 hour and 10 remaining. Out on track, Rylan Gray. He leads this race, but he's still got to get his 2nd stop done. Both of these cars only have 1 stop remaining. And that is not going to help his cause for McLennan. The over-under is going to cover off down into turn 6. And again, closes the door. It's getting willing, Tom Reynolds. Not Tom Reynolds, Tom Randall. Tom Randall.
You okay there, Cameron?
Yeah, I need another coffee. Where's my mate Richard Crail? He's in the Trico Tech Centre at the moment.
Let's just make a little shout out to Crailsy. The coffee man delivered the goods this morning for all of us, so it feels like it's been a while since we had those morning lattes. But this battle between the 2 McLarens for the lead, 1 hour and 9 minutes to go, probably don't need to be battling this hard at this point. Whether or not he's been given the signal, or that's just a really hard look, and he's actually letting him through. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So McLennan letting Heyman through. Looks like Heyman has the speed in that McLaren at the moment, and really, at this point of the race, no point in losing time with still another round of pit stops to go for that car. So 1 stop remaining for the 2 McLarens, yet 2 stops remaining for the Rylan Gray Mustang. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with about 1 hour and 9 minutes to go. And also something we spoke about in the break, Sam Brabham in the Pro-Am number 17 Mercedes is putting down some really good laps too as we go to a replay of the Randall. Once again, no affiliation to me, but the Randall BMW, the 32 with Lawrence behind the wheels, just had a little bit of moment at the last corner, gathers it up, and that could have been that's where that debris came from, guys.
Jacob Lawrence at the wheel of the 32. He's driving or sharing that car with John Bow. They are, at the end of the pit stops, leading the AM class at the moment. Spins don't help, though. As we continue to watch Tom Heyman in the lead of Tom McLennan. We saw that move being done. They were tripping each other over. There's an hour and 8 remaining in this race. 2 stops still to be done by your race leader, Rylan Gray. But when it washes out, the race leaders are the 2 McLarens on screen.
Now that Mustang's really struggling out there. He's back into the 15s. And remember, guys, he's still on that same set of tyres from the start of the race where the 2 McLarens took that green set, as we call it, green tyres, brand new tyres for both McLarens, and they're lapping in the 13s. So I think they're going to have to stop this Mustang pretty soon and put a set of tyres on it, because they're losing precious time here. He's out in clear air and he's losing time to these McLarens. So it'll be interesting to see what they do down the bunker there. We'll see if maybe Rusty can get down there and see what they reckon. We've got some, I mean, that team down at that are running the Ford Mustang, the Madeki Motor Group team. Chris O'Toole, big role there, team manager down in that team, who's got a massive history in supercars with Ford as well. So they'll be wondering what they do with this car, because I don't think they can keep it out there for that much longer. Just then gone by, low 15s for that car, as we see the number 17 Pro-Am of Sam Brabham has just pitted.
So Sam Brabham did a great job out there in the Pro-Am entry. He mentioned he's back in the pits. We'll keep an eye on this Mustang. There's the 2 McLarens. When they pitted, or when the first of them pitted, which was the McLennan entry, it was about 13 seconds gap back to the Miedeke Motorsport Mustang. So under the stint done by George Miedeke at the beginning, he brought it out with only, I guess you'd say, what was it, about 8 seconds was the gap between them. So he'd made up about 5 seconds between the 2 cars. I think they might be giving it back right now.
Well, we've got a driver here in the commentary box. Let's go down to another driver racing this weekend in the pits. It's Josh Buchan.
Hey guys, I'm here with series leader in Pro-Am, Lockie Maneef. Mate, first enduro for GT4, proper big race. How's it shaped out so far?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know yourself, GT4's been awesome this year, and to have a full proper 3-hour enduro is awesome. So yeah, the race's been going right so far. Shane had an awesome start, and I jumped in. We had all the tyres and a pretty heavy fuel load then, and the pace was pretty good. So I think once we get to the last kind of 40-45 minutes when it all happens, I think yeah, with obviously just enough fuel to finish, it'd be great.
So I guess you did mention that the fuel load that you're running, this is probably, well, it is a longer race than what we've ever run. Probably more fuel than what we've ever run too. How has that affected the car? Has it affected the car?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I think, you know, as the tyres start to wear out, in these cars tend to get a bit of an understeer balance, but you know, with our Porsche fuel tank being right over the front axle, it's not actually too bad. But you know, you are carrying, you know, an extra 40-50 kilos, so it's like having another passenger in the car. So it's yeah, it's good. It's you know, obviously a challenge, but you know, great learning, and I think we'll be able to take some of it back to the sprint racing for the rest of the year.
And I guess looking around, you're obviously with Method Motorsport, old Mostert's team. I can see a lot of Walkinshaw suits. Have you just borrowed suits from the crew, or are they actually guys from Walkinshaw helping out? I can see your brothers on the tools and everything.
Yeah, no, it's we've got the Walkinshaw suits here, obviously with Chaz's connection, but yeah, no, it's you know, a couple of guys from around the supercar lane, so it's great to you know, have such an experienced crew behind us, and hopefully put it to good use later this morning.
Cool, mate. Well, I'm not racing, so I can root for you. Best of luck, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Glad to see Josh Buchan joining us on the broadcast. Thank you, Josh. Might need to fire a couple of coffees into him to get him up and running as well, as Rylan Gray continues around. He'll need tyres on that car. That's the call from the box. Whilst that interview was unfurling, had a bit of a chat with our expert on the panel. And no, James Baldwin, you are an expert, just not in this case. Thomas Randall.
I thought you were the expert, Cameron.
I'm an expert in something. 104. 1 hour, 4 minutes remaining. How much damage is being done on this stint? 26.9, that last first sector. And 25.7 for the McLennan entry, 25.5 for the Heyman entry. So he's losing roughly a second a sector.
They're going to have to pit this car soon, Cameron, because they're just bleeding time at the moment. So they need tyres on this Mustang. They need tyres. I think what's happened is because Madecki was so strong towards the end of that race, they probably thought that the tyres were going to last longer than they have. And there's a spin for the Mercedes of, is that 27? That would be Love, and that could be beached if he can't get it out of there, which could bring a safety car. So let's see if he can get this thing out of the gravel trap.
So Rob Love spins down at turn 1 in his Mercedes, just in front of what we saw before, the Mediki Motorsport Lubramax Mustang. And we're keeping an eye out to see if those wheels move. Race Control, Motorsport Australia Race Control be watching on. And we watch our timing monitor to see. Now you can see that there's plenty of kitty litter caught up under those wheels. It's the rear wheels. He doesn't look like he's getting it moving just yet. That looks relatively buried.
And Cam, coming through turn 4 is that Mustang.
And we go safety car. The safety car has been thrown as we anticipated. So keep an eye out for your race leader, the 35 of Rylan Gray. Spots the replay down at turn 1, lost the rear on mid-corner, maybe even on entry there, Tom, and then just got beached in the kitty litter. Should have potentially just let it roll back a bit further, maybe could have driven out. But the safety car is now out on track, and this adds a new element of complexity to the strategy as it unfolds. You can see him just spinning wheels. Richard Crail in the Trico Tech Centre will be crunching numbers furiously, trying to work out who's the winners and losers from this one.
I think we've just caught, it looks like the safety car has just caught Rylan Gray. I just saw it in the back of the shot. So that's really going to hurt them, because you would think they would have pitted while they had the chance. So I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but it looks like the safety car has picked up Rylan Gray. So in regards to Love, I think just hot track, probably old tyres, tried to carry a little bit too much speed into turn 1 and around the back goes. See, that's quite interesting. I think that's really, it's going to hurt that car.
Well, that spin happened right in front of this car. So they had the rest of that lap to make the call to pit it, to pit under the safety car. So Rylan Gray now just hemorrhaging more time, but will have to stop. Admittedly, this will be probably another 2-lap recovery. It'll be relatively quick because it'll be a flat toe, and you can see recovery crews already there, the Motorsport Australia officials. So great to see them on the scene so quickly. This will be a relatively quick recovery. They'll hitch up the strap and drag it straight out at turn 1. So a big shout out to all of our Motorsport Australia officials. Thank you for the job you do, not only this weekend, but at the racetracks and the weekends that happen all year round in Australian motorsport. Jamie Augustine's taken the opportunity to pit, so's Tony Quinn. So they've both come into the pits. We'll keep an eye out to see whether Rylan Gray pits this time around. You can see they're pulling the car out relatively quickly. So I'd imagine only one more lap under safety car, potentially, as long as they tidy up down there relatively quickly.
I think we'll see Rylan in the pits this lap. You've got to say he's got to pit now, maximise this time under safety car.
And those brakes still look hot on that 101 entry. But it's interesting, lads, you've both said, when that safety car was called, that Mustang was coming through turn 4, still could have pitted. And this will, as we've said a few times, it's going to hurt. This is that strategy. As we look now, here he comes. Gray in for the pits. A couple of cars behind him as well, Cam.
Now, just on that, Tony Quinn, the 101 has made its final stop. So they're good to the end, guys.
Watch this stop now. That's George Medicki about to jump back in. So out gets Rylan Gray. The time they were losing was incredibly bad or damaging for this car. Let's check in with Josh Buchan, who's down on the spot.
This is big, gents. We've got, obviously, contending car here. Pit stop, George getting back in the car. They've put fuel in. The tyres are here next to the car, and they're throwing, looks like at least a right side on there. I don't know whether they're going to do 1 or 2. They've actually got 4 tyres laid out. Maybe it's a bit of a dummy to everyone else. It's a right rear going on as well. So left side, right side tyres at the moment. George in the car. We don't know how long he's going to run for. He doesn't have too much driver time to go, obviously, with his big first stint. But no, they're going left sides as well. So 4 tyres. This is awesome for this Mustang. It's going to be a cracker race home to the finish. Rylan out of the car. He'll be back in, we assume, at some point.
Yeah, thanks for that, Josh. Now, this is going to really help this car because they were essentially 2 laps ahead of the McLarens because they hadn't pitted that second time, and pitting under safety car. The leaders are only just sort of coming around turn 3 now. So these guys are going to come out potentially still a lap ahead. I think it's going to be quite interesting here.
So the tyres being done, they've got a compulsory pit stop time. The competitive time gets added at the next stop, the 3rd stop, the final stop that's required to be taken by all drivers. As we look at the board, everybody has taken at least 2 stops now. There's several 3-stoppers with the Lawrence car, Peter Lawrence, McCutcheon, Mark Griffith, Studdert. They're also, the Peter Lawrence car's only stopped twice. I should say McCutcheon, Studdert and Griffith have all had their 3 stops. The 27 we mentioned before of Love is now back out on track, driving back around to the pit stop. As we see George Medicki, brand new set of boots on. He's about to take back out to the circuit, and we'll see just how far in front he is. Looking at the safety car, making his way back onto the straight, and it looks like the Medicki car's got out in front of it. So he's beaten the safety car.
This is big, Cameron.
So he'll be able to drive through. There'll be at least 1 more lap under safety car. And right now, he'll be on a qualifier to get as quickly as round to the back of this field as possible. And that is huge. They opened up this opportunity with that long first stint for George Medicki. They gambled on a safety car. And he'll make his way through. 56 minutes remaining. All of our leaders have at least 1 more stop to make.
This has played beautifully into the hands of that Medicki car. We knew that they were struggling in that middle stint there compared to the McLarens, but they're going to be effectively nearly a lap behind. It was, as we're just hearing, the safety car is going to be going 1 more lap.
No, they're coming in this lap. They'll be coming in this lap. That's why we were just saying when he came out, it's about getting as much speed into this car as possible. And Greg Rust, that long first stint of George Medicki, looking like a genius stroke from the Medicki Motorsport Group.
Cam, it is. Now, I want to kind of question mark something that adds to your conversation here. Check this out. So Rylan Gray still has his helmet on. He still has his gloves on. He is having a little burst of water. Now, you know, if they normally, when they jump out of a car like that, they're kind of relaxing, decompressing and so on, but he's kept that gear on. Does that mean, and I'm questioning this, I'm not saying it, does that mean he'll be back in that car sooner rather than later?
Well, they're going to keep an eye out as the lights are off on the safety car. They'll be definitely looking at that. Remember, George Medicki used up a lot of his driver time in the first stint. They'll just be keeping an eye on that 100-minute mark for him, and they'll put him in because they've effectively got a free pit stop up their sleeve right now. More than a free pit stop. As the lights are off on the safety car, the 2 McLarens are buried amongst some traffic, and we're keeping an eye out in the background. There he is in the background. So George Medicki, he's caught up about half a lap, just over half a lap, and we're about to get this one back underway. 54 minutes remaining in this race, plus 1 lap. George Medicki leads. They're out of sequence, all of the cars. So George Medicki will come into back a shot very shortly. There he is, coming back onto the straight, and your McLaren, Method Motorsport McLarens just have gone through turn 1. So there he is. I was looking at the wrong cars there. He's now finally got onto the straight. So he's, geez, the length of the straight and probably turn 1 away from it. But he's got that up his sleeve. He's done a lot of his 100-minute allocation earlier on in this one. And we heard from Greg Rust before that Rylan Gray has kept all of his gear on.
Yeah, just to add to that, Cameron, the reason for that is that, yeah, Medicki really doesn't have to do a long stint here. Ryland. We'll just get the numbers to see how long Ryland was in the car for, but there's really no reason that Ryland needs to take his gear off. He's pretty much had his race gear on from the start of the race, poor Ryland. So
it was cold this morning, so he probably wasn't complaining too much.
That is a very good point. So he's going to be pretty keen to get the helmet off. So Ryland's done about 46 minutes driving time. So 100 minutes total that you're allowed to do. So he's allowed to do another 54 minutes. So technically, he could get back in the car now and finish the race. So yeah, at the moment it's in the hands of Mediki. And remember, guys, they have the shortest in terms of the compensation times as well. Not that that's really relevant now, considering what's just occurred.
On screen, McClellan, who is teammate in the Method Motorsport McLaren, Heyman behind a bit of traffic there. Some of the storylines for this race, this 3 hours, have been these two.
So we're looking now at Motorsport Race Control with a message saying that number 27, Antonio Astudi, currently back in 15th, is under investigation for a pit stop infringement. Won't really affect his race so much. He's a long way back in the Pro-Am class order and effectively running last out on track from an outright position perspective. Nonetheless, we'll let you know what Motorsport Australia Race Control have suggested as we now head back to our McLarens.
Now these guys will be praying for another safety car, well, that's for sure.
They're going to need it. Because 24 of McLennan is the leader of the two Method Motorsport McLarens. He's going to have to push as quickly as possible. That car currently holds the race lap record of 1:13.13. So we know it's the fastest car of the race so far over a single lap. Going to need to do a lot of those laps. They're going to catch up to the back of George Mediki. So the gap between first and second, 59 seconds. Courtesy of a safety car and a good strategic decision by the Mediki Motorsport Group very early on in this race.
Now, not to take away McLennan's driving abilities, but it'd be pretty tough to try and make up 59 seconds with 51 minutes remaining. So, like we just said, I think a safety car is what's going to save those McLarens. We know that they have the pace as Mediki's just making his way through some lap traffic. There you can see Ryland Gray with all his race gear still on. Like I said to you before, Cameron, I think he'd be pretty keen to get that helmet off at some point, but he really can't, because I don't think it's going to be too much longer before they do another driver changes. Mediki still just finding his way through that lap traffic.
Well, the benefit they'll have, if they stop him relatively soon, then they're done. Pit stop's out of the way and they can just stay out on track for the rest of the race. They've got brand new boots on. The question is, how much fuel will they put in the next stop? Because I believe they didn't put, I didn't see any fuel going in. I thought it was just the 4 tyres on that last stop. So it'll be interesting to see what they put in. They've got plenty of time available, though, to make their decision. They won't be changing tyres, so it'll be fuel, if anything, next time that this car enters the pit lane. 58.8 seconds. The gap between first and second. The silver class, it's Mediki, McLennan, Heyman. They're your outright podium and your silver class podium. In the Pro-Am, Shane Smollen, 4th outright, 1st in Pro-Am class. Steve Jakic, who's driving with Ryder Quinn, they're 2nd in Pro-Am. Then Bailey Love, who's in the pit lane, 3rd in Pro-Am, 7th outright. We look to the Am class and Jacob Lawrence with John Bow. They're the leaders and have done so throughout this race in the Am class, 9th outright. Peter Lawrence, he's back there, 2nd in the Am class, 11th outright. And Ben Newman, 13th outright and 3rd in the Am class. Should give a shout out to Zoe Woods as well, sitting inside the top 10 outright. Currently 5th in the silver class.
Now, one thing that Mediki may do, they really have no risk here, so they could wait until the McLaren's pit and then say, all right, now we'll pit. So they might just, they've got that flexibility, guys, of just thinking, okay, we know that we've all got to do an extra pit stop, so maybe let the McLaren's pit first, and then just to reduce that risk of there being another safety car potentially.
100%. That's the strategy you'd run. The 99%, and just cover them off from here. Don't need to do anything silly. George Mediki Very experienced racer. He's been enjoying his miles behind the wheel of his Lubramax Ford Mustang GT4 entry. This is the car that rolled up at Phillip Island straight out of a container. They had enough time to do a little bit of rewiring and has barely missed a beat so far in racing in the Monochrome GT4 Australia series. It's getting a lot of fans, and I know you've got a few supporters of the Blue Oval in your corner as well, Thomas Randall, and they are really getting behind this GT4 Ford Mustang. If social media is anything to go by, James Baldwin is giving them just another car to cheer for.
And why wouldn't they? Genuinely, the pace that has been set, not only we keep talking about Ryland Gray and the pace that he's been setting, but honestly, Medicki has been doing an incredible job. Thomas Randall.
Well, Medicki just doing low 14s at the moment. McLaren's mid-13s now. I mean, that delta's not going to be enough to catch the Mustang. Something we've discussed, or Richard spoke about earlier in the panel, was driver times, and we haven't really needed to speak about it until now, until crunch time. And George has roughly 25, 26 minutes left on his driver time. Ryland's done about 48, and there's 47 minutes to go. So I don't think we're probably too far away from seeing the Medicki car pitting. So Ryland is probably able to do about 45 or 45 minutes, which will get him to under 100 minutes of pit stop time. Oh, of driver time, sorry.
I think we're about to lose Thomas Randall to the Trico Tech Centre. He and Krause, they've got the calculators out. I think I even saw a protractor.
We need a scientific calculator.
And an abacus is also what Krause said to me as well. You stay in your tech centre, Krause. 47 minutes, we've got another GT race to call a little later on. So don't put away the pen and paper. The order is plain and simple.
So Camilleri just didn't catch it, but he's got past the Pro-Am of Shane Smolin. So now it's a silver 1, 2, 3, 4. And that number 1 car of Shane Smolin, they're having a great run. So they're leading this. They've got a nice little buffer over the number 3 BMW of Jakic.
Yeah, 1.2 laps. So Ryder Quinn, we know he's exceptionally quick, but I don't think he's going to be making up 1.2 laps when he jumps back in the car.
It's going to be tough. Now, the thing to note is the 101 car of McCutcheon. They've done all their stops. They are they are about 2 laps behind on the number 1. So, as you can see, a little bit of damage. Yeah, it looks like there's a bit of damage on the back of that number 1 Porsche, which is the leader of the Pro-Am. So is this a scheduled pit stop, I wonder?
No, well, they're going to make the stop now anyway, but I can tell you that car body language, as they braked into turn 6 as well, was all over the place. So he'll be able to use this as his final stop, but look at all the... He must have run off the track somewhere there, because you can see a fair bit of debris, or not debris, a bit of dust and dirt coming out of the car as he pulled up on his marks.
Yeah, I'd say this has got to be a scheduled pit stop. Now, that car has 15 seconds extra of compensation time. So let's just look out for McCutcheon, see where he comes out to play. That car doesn't have, or didn't have, any compensation times in its pit stop. So with the smaller car in the lane, they'll just check that rear diffuser as we get a replay. Oh, he's actually been off.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, because when he pulled up on his marks, all the dust and dirt came out of the car. So whilst it's within his pit stop window, he's probably lucky. Came back in, pitted. They'll be able to make some adjustments to the car. But when he braked for turn 6 that next lap around, there was a bit of weird body language going on with the car. So I'm sure Greg Rust or Josh Bucket will be straight onto the spot with Shane Smolin and the number 1, just checking whether there's anything more untoward with the car. They'll have taped up the rear bodywork. But yes, it was stopped within their window, but is there more to this story? Getting under the rear there, that's where the bodywork was hanging off.
Got the zip ties out as well.
A few tech screws maybe. Now, that's probably not going to have too much of an effect on the performance, you'd say, but I'm really interested to see where this car's going to come out, if it's going to be close with the 101 of McCutcheon.
So on the spot is Greg Rust. Rusty, what do you got for us?
I've tracked down Shane Smolin here to try and answer that question for you. Was there an issue of some kind with the Porsche?
Yeah, look, it may just be heat. I mean, the brake pedal was going a little longer. The rear of the car was misbehaving a bit, and unfortunately we just went a little bit hot into one, found the gravel, but easily could have been beast as well. So we got out, probably lost a bit of time, but it's up to Lockie now to bring it home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty. On the spot down there in his resplendent pit suit. Looked great, didn't he? Hey? Refueling, safety first here, particularly in the Motorsport Australia pit lane. Let's keep an eye out here, George Miedeke. He's got to be getting close to handing over. Not this lap though, continues around for another one.
McCutcheon has jumped the number 1 of Shane Smolin. So that car still in the pits, just leaving its pit box now. So that number 1 has pretty much been leading the way in the Pro-Am class today. So that safety car probably hurt them a little bit earlier on when McCutcheon took their final stop. So that 101 car, the Porsche GT4, is looking pretty good here because they have all their stops completed. And the Jackage car now in the lane for their last pit stop as well, Cameron.
So they'll be handing over to Ryder Quinn. Plenty of work to do still in this race. So we look now back to the leader on track. And when it all washes out, we'll still be the leader of this race after the final pit stops, such as the advantage that the Miedeke Motorsport Group has. So they see the changeover now. Ryder Quinn jumping back into the car, taking over from Steve Jackage. And through we go again. Miedeke, McLennan, Heyman, Camilleri, your top 4. McCutcheon, as we mentioned before, he was able to overshoot or overlap the Smolin entry, back down in 9th, outright at the moment, but they've completed all stops. The Jacob Lawrence car still has to stop. And our top 4 cars on track also have to take one more stop with 42 minutes remaining in this race. 3 hours. What a way to start Sunday at the Eventelec Race Queensland. Plenty of action coming up today. Trico Trans Am. We've got GT3 coming up in the not too distant future. Some of the other categories you're looking forward to. 86 Scholarship as well. And Rusty, what have you got for us down in pit lane?
I thought I might have a quick word to Steve Jackage. I've noticed, Cam, that they've got 4 brand new tyres going on that BMW. How was your stint, and what sort of feeling is the car giving in this final phase of the race?
Well, the final phase was pretty difficult with the tyres. I had the best of them a long time ago. Got a new set of treads now, and let Ryder bring it home and see what happens.
He's done a ripper job here, hasn't he?
He has, mate. He has. Proud of the boy, mate. He's doing really well.
Okay, thank you.
Well done, Rusty. Great to hear. So, not only is he a rapid young driver in Ryder Quinn, but he's also got a fresh set of boots on the BMW. George Miedeke through for another lap. Just crosses the start-finish line. He's 54.7 seconds up the road. They haven't been able to put much of a dent in him, the 2 Method Motorsport McLarens.
Back to Miedeke. I think that car's going to have to hit pretty soon, Cameron, because he's going to be starting to get pretty close on his maximum driver time. Remember, it's 100 minutes total for the entirety of the race. And that car with Miedeke on board, he did about 73 minutes in the first stop. So he had only 27 minutes of driver time remaining when he got back out there, which was under that safety car. So I think it won't be too far away from seeing this car pit again for a driver change, because the last thing they'd want when they've got a 54-second lead is to have any sort of breach, whether it be driver time or anything. So in these sorts of races, boys, you can't put a foot wrong. You need to maximise everything, minimise mistakes, and I'm sure that team down there will be very aware of how long Miedeke has left remaining. So we'll try and get an exact number, but you can see Ryland, it looks like he's had a bit of a snooze there. He might need a coffee too, Cameron.
Geez, I think, where's our second stop on coffee stop?
Where's Crailsey?
We went in. No, he's too busy working at the moment. We wouldn't tap him on the shoulder. And again, we go for another lap with George Miedeke at the wheel through turn 1. Chasing up, a bit of traffic there. That's Jake Camilleri. He's about to put a lap down, or another lap down. It'll be 2 laps behind Jake Camilleri will be, as George Miedeke looks to the inside. Blue flag's waving, should allow him straight through. And Camilleri gives enough room for George Miedeke into turn 3 to continue on. 54.1 seconds, the gap still between first and second. If you're just tuning in on 7 Plus, it's the Miedeke Mustang leading another race in the Monochrome GT4 Australia series.
Now, Crailsey and I have been crunching some numbers with our scientific calculators, known as our rusty brains.
Yep.
And we believe at the end of this lap, Miedeke carries on. He's going to have done around 96 minutes of driver time, and he is carrying on. So 96 minutes we think potentially that he has done, and he's only allowed to do 100. So they are cutting it fine here in the 35 Miedeke Ford Mustang.
There'll be Hey Siri set timer going on right now. Last time I did that, Crailsey, everyone's phones went off in the box.
Mine just did.
Rusty, do you think?
Just audio.
Yeah. Oh, okay, Rusty. I'm happy with just audio, mate. Give us it.
Cam, sorry, mate. I was just radioing our producer to let you know the crew here have just been working over the numbers. Chris O'Toole is there as well, and the little hand gesture I saw a moment ago was two laps. So what have we got? About 1.5 left to go here before we should see George Miedeke in.
Geez, they're cutting it fine the way we're working it out. Thank you very much, Greg Rust, down on the spot. He won't be moving too far from that bunker, I would imagine. This is the story at the moment. Do they really need to run it that fine?
Possibly not, but I guess the main reason they are is just for any safety car risk. But Miedeke, fair play to him. He's putting down very similar lap times to these McLarens. We saw probably about 5-6 laps ago, the McLarens were lapping probably half a second to 8/10 lap quicker. That gap was about 58 seconds when the race resumed after safety car, which feels like probably maybe 15-20 minutes ago, and it's only dropped to like 53 seconds. So yeah, I can see why they're staying out, just for that safety car risk, but I think the bigger risk will be that driver time. And the last thing that you'd want is if there's a safety car and the field compresses and slows down, that lap is no longer a 1:14 lap. It's like a 2-minute lap. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this car in the lane either this lap or the next lap, because I think that's all they've got left before Miedeke's driver time expires.
Fresher tyres too on this Mustang compared to the two McLarens. And as Thomas Randall pointed out, as it comes through turn 4, we might see him in this lap. Ryland Gray jumping back in.
They better wake Ryland Gray up. He was having a nap down there before. Give him a poke. Not far away.
Greg Rust, who is more than just audio, might have to give him a bit of a poke for that.
And he's in. So there it was. Greg Rust was right on the spot. Called it, said 2 to go. And in comes George Miedeke. So this is the final stop. Let's go down to Josh Buchan, who's on the spot for this pit stop.
All right, guys, this is obviously net race lead coming in. Miedeke jumping out, Gray back in. Running a bit longer than what they probably anticipated with George. It's well over his driver time now, so there's no issues there. Ryland back in the car. Both equally matched for pace, as we've seen. Tyres are fresh, they're just going to adjust the pressures. No real work on the car. It's all very calm here, which is excellent. You can see George helping Ryland with the belts. You can see there's no rushed movements. Plugging everything, giving him an update, probably just on the car balance and whatnot, telling him where it's good, where it's not, what to look at, where there's pickup. All that stuff comes into it around here, particularly QR with how much sort of overtaking with the lap traffic you're going to have. So this is good stuff here. Ryan's all set. There's George just putting that window net back on. Can be tricky sometimes, but easily done. They're going to come out. I can't see exactly where the McLarens are. Coming around turn 2, so this is going to be very, very tight. George, I've got George here. Sorry, guys. Mate, how was that? Probably ran a bit longer than what you thought, but mate, the freedom fighter out there was doing his job.
Yeah, exactly. Had a bit of fun. It was nice to get some good tyres on it and have a bit of a crack. But yeah, look, that wasn't our plan. But the good thing about this, the flexibility, as I said before, is is our ability to, make decisions on the fly. So we got Matt Harvey in the box making the calls. He called me to my 6-hour win earlier in the year, and he's been mentoring Juice in GT Challenge. So yeah, look, we've got all the right people, and car seems to be going well.
No, doing a cracker job, mate. Well done. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Well done, Josh Buchan. Thank you for joining the coverage today. Let's go back to the Trico Tech Centre with Richard Crail. Crailsy, how close was the Mediki Motorsport entry from going over their 100 minutes?
Well, we'll just come back to that, because right now there's been a little shuffle in the lead, and it's worth picking up on this, although there's still a bit to play out, Cam. So Mediki in the lane, Ryland Gray to take over and go to the end of the race now. Now the two McLarens have just shuffled past, so they're the current race leaders, but they've still got a mandatory stop to go. And that safety car earlier was absolutely key to helping the Lubramax Ford get to this position they're in, where they had this strategic flexibility. It worked, but more key to it, I think, was George's opening stint. I've seen a lot of George Mediki's driving over the years. Saw him win the Bathurst 6-hour this year with Jaden Ojeda and Simon Hodges. He is driving as well as he ever has in his career this year. He is sharp, he's switched on, and he has been relentlessly consistent today. And that's what's given them this amazing flexibility to win the race. But we've been crunching the numbers, so Ryland Gray's jumped into that car with about 34 minutes to go as it works out as he leaves the lane. With his 46 minutes at the start, he's going to do just over 80 minutes in the car. Now remember the numbers we crunched at the start of the race. No driver can do more than 100 minutes. It's a 180-minute race. Now, I'm no maths rocket scientist, believe me, I'm not. My iPhone's got smoke pouring off it with the calculator up at the moment. But I think George Mediki's just driven 95 or 96 minutes, possibly the best he's ever driven, especially in this car. So well done to that team. He mentioned Matt Harvey, who's been calling the strategy there and did call their 6-hour win in the BMW at Easter this year. Very experienced guy and very switched on. So I think that's great. The interesting one for mine, attention now will shift to this Method Motorsport fight between Tom McLennan and Tommy Heyman. And Tom Randall's just pointed out that what they're going to look for now is a late safety car, because if they get a safety car now, it'll be almost a reverse. They won't keep the race lead, but it will help them massively if they get one. So they will push this stint as long as they can, hoping, praying that there is a late intervention from the Hyundai safety car to get them into the lane. Some other good performances wanted to touch on. The Quinn McCutcheon team have done a great job. Now, they were the other ones out of sequence. They went long in the first stint. Tony Quinn went 58 minutes in his first stint in car 101. And reverse engineering from the back of the race, that's what's got them to the lead in the Pro-Am class late in this one. That's been a really good drive. And in 10th position outright is the AM class leader, Lawrence in car 33. They've got quite a margin over the 32 Randall Racing car with John Bowe. So there's still some stops to go. The Lawrence car's in the lane now. Bowe's car's completed all their pit stops. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out towards the end. I also wanted to give a shout out for a couple of other drivers who have driven superbly today. Sam Brabham's been really good in that number 17 Love Motorsport Mercedes AMG, and Ryder Quinn probably haven't got the rub of the green so far today in that BMW in terms of car speed, but when he's been in it, it's been super quick, and they were hovering around the top 5 or 6 early. So still a couple of pit stops to go for the cars that are currently first, second and third on the road. That will shuffle back with the Mustang to the race lead when everything shuffles out. So 30 minutes to go. We'll go back to the commentary team. But a fascinating race. This has played out really well, and despite the fact they're boxed into a pretty tight hole from strategy with 3 mandatory pit stops, with the driver changing every stop, there's still enough flexibility in it to make it fascinating, and this race is far from decided yet.
Thank you very much, Richard Crail in the Trico Tech Centre, giving us all of the updates. So we'll just go through that again. As it stands, even though he is 4th on track at the moment, the effective leader of this race is Ryland Gray in the Mediki Motorsport Lubramax Ford Mustang, then followed by the 2 Method Motorsport McLarens of Tom McLennan and Tom Heyman, who still have another stop to go. McCutcheon, we saw some great shots of McCutcheon working away at the wheel. He's leading in Pro-Am, the 101 car. And John Bowe now back in the lead after Peter Lawrence came in and handed over to Jamie Augustine. They've finished their pit stops, and John Bowe leads the AM class. Stick around on 7+. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to go green to the flag. And in the last 30 minutes of this race. So Rylan Gray still on screen at the moment. He just has to worry about getting this car to the checkered flag. 29 minutes, 1 lap remaining. There's nothing more they can do. They've played their hand. They've got their strategy. This car, barring a safety car, is going to cruise to a victory here. I won't put the mockers on him as Tom Randall comes back from his final pit stop ahead of finishing this race. Tom, up and down the order, whether it's the Silver Class, Pro-Am or Am, we've seen some great battles in the race today.
We have indeed, and it's the race sort of turned on its head with that safety car. So, like we mentioned before, those McLarens are going to be praying for another late race safety car. And what's interesting to note, at the moment, you've got the 24 of McLennan leading the 25 of Heyman, but the 24 car has 20 seconds worth of compensation pit stop time, and the 25 only has 15 seconds. So I think that's going to switch when we see that last round of pit stops.
Chloe Duke is saying that car 24 is getting ready to come in soon. We start to figure out how this will end. 27 minutes to go, and here is that car in that McLaren.
So he's going to hand that over to Nathan Morecambe to bring it home.
So McLennan in the pit lane. Tom Heyman takes over the lead, but 1 stop remaining for the Method Motorsport McLaren. Welcome back to the coverage on 7 Plus. Tom McLennan pulls into the pits in the 24 Method Motorsport McLaren. This is the final pit stop for that car. Jake Camilleri also into the pits for its final stop, and they will be handing over to their fellow drivers. Tom Heyman stays out on track. He's still got 1 pit stop remaining, the last car in the field with a pit stop to run.
Now remember, guys, something that we just mentioned in the break. This is the final of the 3 stops, which means we have to add the compensation times to the pit stops as well. So the 24 of McLennan that's in the lane, they're doing fuel, tyre pressures, and they've got to add 20 seconds to their pit stop. Whereas when the 25 car of Flack and Heyman, they've only got to do 15 seconds. And remember, that car of the 25 was about half a second behind the McLennan before the stops. So they're going to come out, you've got to say, in front of the McLennan car, which is handing over the duties back to Nathan Morecambe. So it'll be interesting to see how these 2 boys finish up, because they've both sort of been as quick as each other in this race, and whether or not they're going to be battling for that 2nd spot on the podium.
No team orders at McLaren?
No multi-21. No multi-21.
Hang on a second. Where are we? We're Spa. Where are we?
Hungary.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't let it go.
So this is going to be interesting. Rylan Gray's, there you go, back up into 2nd now. No surprises there as the McLennan car still in the lane serving its final pit stop with that compensation time as well. So we've just seen come up on race control, a drive-through penalty for car 210, which is the TechWorks Motorsport car of Zoe Woods, which is, they were tracking on pretty good there. So they've got a pit stop infringement. So we'll have to get to the bottom of that, whether that's maybe a case of too many people working in the lane, pit stop time, not quite sure. I'm sure we'll find out what's happened there.
Thank you very much. Good pick up there, Thomas Randall. As the 24 of Tom McLennan, well, he's out of the car now, but he's back out on track, or about to be very shortly. And their run to the flag, waiting now on Tom Heyman. When will he pit his Method Motorsport McLaren? Just to watch out for the final undercut here from its sister car.
And talking about pit stops and McLarens and who comes in first, just being told that car 25 looked like it wanted to be in first. Marcus Flack had his helmet on, was standing ready, then took it off. As the 24 came in, some McLaren there doing McLaren things.
I wonder what Zach Brown's doing right now. We're going to see a post on Facebook or Instagram from Zach. He doesn't mind his McLarens and how they're going around the world. He's probably tuning into this race at some point. It's, oh, maybe not. It's about 1 a.m. at the moment in the UK, so he might not be tuning into this one.
Might be some commitment from those of us here in Australia watching Formula One at similar times.
They're on their summer break as the 25 now comes in. Tom Heyman pits. The final pit stop for the Method Motorsport McLaren. Remember, they do have the additional they have to take as Chaz Mostert with his beanie on.
Yep.
And jacket in position. It'll be shorts as well, no doubt. No, he's got the long pants on today as well as Chaz Mostert. Some great scenes on social media last night with he and Will Brown fighting it out over a pizza. Rusty, you're on the spot. What can you add?
I'll chase down the tech work scenario. I haven't got an answer on that yet from the Motorsport Australia officials. I've just eyeballed Chaz, though. I think you said in commentary a moment ago, will there be any team orders here around the McLaren drivers? Chaz says absolutely not. They are free to race, no dramas at all. I'll come back to you. In fact, while that stop is happening, I can see Tom McLennan here. Hey, good stint from you guys. What's the car like, you know, going into this final run?
Yeah, obviously, car was pretty slippery there at the end there. It was hard to go through the high-speed corners like 1 and 2. The rear was very taily, but yeah, got a pretty good safety car restart there, got through the field, and teammate Tom followed, and then we had a pretty lonely stint, and we were just going lap for lap at the end there. But yeah, pretty happy with my effort overall. I think just get Nathan in the car now to bring it home, hopefully for a good result.
On balance, you know, has this played out as you guys talked about last night from a plan? Have you had to modify that much, or it's gone to a textbook scenario?
Yeah, the car's been pretty good actually. It hasn't really fallen off at all weekend. Yeah, we've had a huge performance upgrades since Friday and since Saturday and Sunday today. It's been brilliant, so yeah, no complaints there.
Fingers crossed for you. While we leave you, thank you for talking to us. We'll try and sneak in and grab a word with Tom Heyman here. Hey, hard work there. How you feeling?
Yeah, it's been a long race. Obviously, I just did about an hour stint, so no, car's quick. I think we're looking good for the last stint. Yeah, we'll try and catch the Mustang once he got that free kick out of the safety car, so we'll see how we go.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
There you go, free kick it was indeed, but they had to put themselves in the window to take advantage of it. So Heyman, a big stint from him. He's handed over to Marcus Flack, who's now at the wheel of that entry. So Rylan Gray leading this race now. We'll see the gap very shortly as they wash out now. 21 minutes, 40 seconds remaining in this one. That's the 24 of Nathan Morecambe on board now. There is Rylan Gray out on track in the Lubramax Ford Mustang with a very good advantage out in front at the moment.
Yeah, during the break, or during the pit stop seconds we just saw, the 27 of Astudi and Love have copped a stop-and-go penalty and have got to hold the car for 35 seconds for a pit lane infringement. So we'll find out for you what's happened there, because that's a pretty severe penalty. So now Rylan Gray's taken over the lead, finally, officially in front by, as we're not surprised, 53, 54 odd seconds.
So yeah, it was 54 seconds, I believe, just before those pit stops, and 1 second's been made up, but geez, I need a bit more than that with 20 minutes remaining. A good advantage is now out to 54.9 as they bring their cars back up to temp, up to speed. So Rylan Gray, Marcus Flack, Nathan Morecambe, your top three, and McCutcheon now, as this is all sort of unfolded, finds himself as a Pro-Am entry in the top 4 outright.
Pretty impressive, really. They've nailed that strategy, as we spoke about a bit earlier in that pit stop. Interesting to note, the gap between the two McLarens was about half a second before the pit stops, and it's now 12 seconds, yet they had a pit stop delta for their compensation times of only 5 seconds. So not quite sure where that extra 7 seconds loss is. So I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of that as the 27 of Astudi is serving its stop-go penalty. So also we'll try and work out what that penalty was for as well, as Manif is in the pits for a 4th stop.
I was going to say, remember they had that issue that said that when Shane Smollen was talking to us in the interview with Greg Rast, Shane Smollen was saying there was a bit of an issue with the rear end. It was getting loose, and also the brake pedal was running long. Well, now Lockie Manif has brought that car back into pit lane. You can see it on screen right now. So that was one of our contenders in the Pro-Am. In fact, it was leading for much of this until the moment down at turn 1 for Shane Smollen. So Lockie Manif back in the pit lane and parked. That looks like that car is being removed from this race, so
no one's getting near it.
No, so that is stopped in the pit lane, which means McCutcheon now has a race purely on his own for now. Nash Morris, the next best of the Pro-Ams, back in 7th outright.
Such a shame for that car because they were looking really good at the start of this race, so not quite sure what's happened there. Now the 27 that served that 35-second stop-go, that was for a mandatory pit stop time infringement, so you've only got to assume that they didn't quite do the 155 seconds at the stop, so we'll get clarification on that, but I've got to guess that that's has to be what it's for. So yeah, at the moment, Roland Gray, the Madeki car out in front by 56 seconds. So ladies and gentlemen, if you've just joined us here on 7 Plus this morning, you're probably wondering how the gap is so big, and I've got to tell you that it's the race sort of flipped on its head when the safety car came out because the two McLarens were looking very strong at the start of this one. So the safety car that we had really helped that Roland Gray car. They stayed out long, they pitted late, and they've got the lead. So let's head down back to the lane with Rusty.
Pretty disappointed Lockie Manif out of the car. What's happened here?
She's got a bit of a brake issue, and it's pretty hard on brakes here, and obviously pretty high speed. So yeah, she don't take any risks there, and yeah, we'll have a quick look at it. Do the last couple of laps, be classified.
If I know you, you've probably tried to persist as long as you could, particularly knowing the position both you and Shane had in this race in your class.
Yeah, that's right. Like obviously, yeah, I'm always here to have a crack, but you know, we're in a car that we can't really, yeah, it's obviously, we don't have any damage and we just want to get a finish. So, yeah, bit tough, got a couple on the chin.
Thank you. As we get set to go back to the commentary team, you can hear the deflation in Lockie's voice there. And Tom, just to your question around the breach of the mandatory pit stop time for that TechWorks entry, I think you wanted some clarification on just how much time. We're being told the allegation is that it was 4 seconds under. 4 seconds under potentially.
Thanks, Rusty, there. That's such a shame. It's those little things that make the difference in these long races. Getting that wrong, it's seconds matter, and unfortunately, yeah, being under that 155 seconds of the mandatory stops cost them. So all it takes, boys, that can put you out of a good position. But let's talk about the 101 of Matt McCutcheon, Cameron, because they've been doing a really good job, and McCutcheon has been setting some really fast laps in that car.
It's a really good point you bring him up. We mentioned before just how well this car's going, the 101, which has Tony Quinn as his co-driver in that one. Matty McCutcheon, we probably should start dialing him up. There's a few big names in his corner. He's won the Quinn Foundation Scholarship back in 2022. He was a Speedway dirt-style champion back when he was 15, but wanted to become a supercar star. And he's backed, he's mentored by Shane Van Gisbergen. So from a Kiwi perspective, you want to get behind this young guy.
Hey, there's too many fast Kiwis, Cameron, so we don't need any more, okay? But no, look, he's doing a great job out there. As you said, he's a protege of Van Gisbergen, and in his rookie season of the Toyota 86 Racing Series, he actually won a race as well. And he got to sample a supercar for the first time with Erebus in their Who's Next evaluation day at Winton as well. Oh, look at this.
Watching. Sorry to jump in there, but Ryder Quinn, I just love his commitment. He is just throwing it down. This is fantastic to watch. Ryder Quinn doesn't care whether you're leading the race, you're second or third. And now the Ginetta, they're going toe-to-toe.
Well, that's for position 2. That is for position between Quinn and Hughes. So he's actually just moved up a spot in the Pro-Am class.
That was great. Ryder Quinn, entertaining driver to watch. Not done, though, is Hughes. He's gone to the outside now at turn 6. And Ryder Quinn should be able to drive away down the main straight here. But you'd be sitting there in the McLaren going, I don't want any part of this. And just staying well out of the way. The 25 of Marcus Flack, he was right in the middle of that battle pack.
And that's an 1,100 kilo Ginetta, thanks for the facts, Crailsey, versus a 1,450 kilo BMW. So 350 kilo difference between those cars, and they're duking it out for position. So pretty cool to see.
And poor old Marcus Flack felt like he was in a smart car in a truck race just then, didn't he?
Absolutely. McCutcheon, just back to McCutcheon, they're up 9 spots here, Cameron. They are 4th outright in the Pro-Am class, and they're about, well, they're over a lap ahead of the next car, which is a silver car with Zoe Woods at the wheel. So that car had to serve a drive-through as well not too long ago. So the Pro-Am car, we did just talk up McCutcheon stocks there as well, so they're having a great run. This is the car on screen, entering turn 1. So they're having a great little run.
How's the time in McCutcheon, though? Let's look at the sector splits. A 25.7 for the first sector, the best we've seen in the silver class.
13.9 lap time.
25.3. Like, he's flying out there, Matty McCutcheon.
And that's the kind of pace that he's started to appear later on in this race. And there's 13 minutes, 30 seconds to go. Anything can still happen here. We're talking about the gap. Almost a full minute now from Gray back to Flack. Safety car still not off the table, because as we start getting further and further towards the end of this 3-hour race, Tom, you'd know this as a driver. Maybe not everyone's being as sharp as they possibly could. The lines might start to change if you need to go around traffic. We've already seen some marbles start to appear as you see some of these shots, especially sort of through turn 1 and 2. If you need to go offline to get around some traffic, it would be interesting.
I was just going to add exactly to that point that the marbles that generate off the track in a 3-hour race like this, we see it a lot in supercar races because they are quite long races, the amount of pickup and rubber that gets left offline. So going off the traditional racing line can be costly, as we've seen during the race. But one thing to note, back to McCutcheon, his previous lap, not this one, but his previous lap was a 13.9, and Morecambe on the same lap did a 14.8. So he's just done a 14.5, I'd say, having to get past maybe some lap traffic, but plenty of speed in that Porsche.
I actually looked a little bit earlier and went, oh, is he a chance at getting an outright podium? He's just a bridge too far at this much time. But how's that, a Pro-Am driver? I'm really impressed with the drive there. Great strategy call from the team. Tony Quinn will be exceptionally happy with this result. As he said before to Rusty, I don't need my tyres pumped up, they're fully inflated. So love to hear that from Tony Quinn. But we continue with Matty McCutcheon leading Pro-Am right now in front of Nash Morris, who's also on the podium, and Sam Brabham. So there you go, you'll have a Quinn, a Morris and a Brabham on the Pro-Am podium as it stands right now.
So just to add to a little bit of the weather front, I know we were talking about the marbles, but just to give you guys some idea of the UV, what effect that makes, the start of the race, the UV was about nearly a 10th of the intensity that it is now, and they're still punching out. Well, we saw McCutcheon just punched out a 13.8, so pretty fast time still when the track temperature and the UV is up high, and the actual temperature at the moment, ambient's about 18 degrees, and we're going to get to about a top of 20 degrees today. So we haven't seen the top or the peak of ambient, but we're nearly, even though it's only 10:30 in the morning, guys, or nearly approaching 10:30, we're nearly at the peak of the UV for today.
Just taking a little bit of a look further back in the field to the AM category, John Bowe, who we spoke to what feels like an eternity ago this morning, Greg Russ down in the pit lane with him, said that from his teammate's point of view, Jacob Lawrence, who's only been driving for a year now, feels like he's overtaken him. But to be fair, John Bowe, the morning coffee that he's had earlier, is doing well and is leading this AM class. Augustine behind him in what has been up and down this field in all 3 categories, genuinely interesting and fantastic racing, Thomas.
The gap between Augustine and John Bowe is about 11.8 seconds, and on the last lap, Augustine was 2 seconds a lap faster than John Bowe. Now, whether or not Bowe had some traffic in that BMW, the Randall run, different Randall, once again, just to clarify that, different Randall, but he's going to catch him at that rate. If he keeps this up, just in the first sector, he's about half a second faster than John Bowe as well. So let's keep an eye on that gap as well.
Of course, plenty of experience from John Bowe, one of the legends of Australian motorsport. And so great to have him involved in this Monochrome GT4 series here at Eventelec Race Queensland.
Looks like Aaron Seaton has just come into the lane for what I can say a 5th stop, and that's a drive-through penalty. So pit stop infringement on that car. That's going to take them out of a somewhat result for them today. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of pit stop infringements today, which has been very interesting. A lot of race control interventions in regards to that area of the motor race.
And Crailsey said it right up front this morning, it's so important to get this right, otherwise you are penalised heavily, and we have seen heavy penalties applied in the latter half of this race. Just under 9 minutes to go, and Gray, who's back on screen, who is leading this race after an absolutely epic stint of, don't forget, only 100 minutes worth of driver time is allowed. And Medeki took it right up to that very limit. And it's played very, very well with some safety car help.
All I'm going to add is that they were leading the race with a lap and a half to go yesterday as well.
Correct.
Finished 3rd as a result of contact, but they stayed 3rd. And it was cleared by Motorsport Australia Race Control. Craig Beard gave us our heads up that it was that George Medeki didn't give enough room on the inside. So the question we have is, with 8 minutes to go, will they be counting any chickens? I don't think they will.
I think they'll be feeling like this is redemption for yesterday's result. They will feel like they were aggrieved of that one. And that was a cracking battle yesterday between the two. The battles that we saw into turn 3, into turn 4 as well. But I'll tell you what, this car, this combination, they haven't put a foot wrong today. They haven't had the outright pace of the McLarens, but the strategy and the safety car has just fallen beautifully in their hands. So 56-second lead over Flack, 7.5 minutes to go. Potential for a very late safety car. There is a possibility, but you'd have to say these guys are looking pretty good right now.
Marcus Flack from Morecambe, about 9 seconds. Thomas, as you said, these Method Motorsport McLarens doing a battle here from a teammate point of view. Let's go down now to the lane once again with Greg Rust.
Thanks very much, James. Just thought we'd talk with Tony Quinn about the performance of his co-driver, Matty McCutcheon. You spotted, some years ago, the kind of talent, and he's really delivered today, hasn't he?
Oh, he's a great guy. He actually works for me, and he just does a great job, and he's a great driver. And it's that all, the Kiwi magic water or pink dust or whatever they've got over there, they just keep producing quality.
It's great stuff that you're giving some of these youngsters an opportunity through things like the Tony Quinn Foundation, which I know you're hugely passionate about. From our side, we've seen the incredible work that's gone on across the ditch, but we're seeing the impact of that here on this venue, and there is more to come, Tony, at Queensland Raceway, isn't there?
Yeah, there is more to come at Queensland. There's more to come in New Zealand. But part of the overall picture is in 2028, I want to send a two-car team, GT3 team, to Dubai to win the Dubai 24-hour, because we won it in 2008. So we're building up two-car team to go there and smash them.
Love it. I love it. All right, we'll let you go and enjoy the finish. Well done on everything so far today. A little bit of news there for you. How about that? That's a good story.
Thanks, Rusty. And hasn't Tony done an incredible job today too? Talking about that 101 car, who has 9 positions. When he was in the car last, it was a 6-position gain from the start of this race. 5 minutes and 30 seconds to go.
Hey, I just want to talk to Thomas Randall and see if he's put his hand up to be one of those drivers in the 2028 challenge that Tony Quinn's just said they're going to go win in Dubai. Have you sent the resume in and said I'm free and available?
Well, I've just found out the news, Cameron, so I might get him on the phone. Do you reckon he'd be able to take a phone call right now?
The reason I say this, sitting next to him in commentary, he'd opened up an email with the name Tony Quinn on top and was submitting an application, was Tom Randall. And let's check back in with Greg Rust, though.
We're not done yet. He's tall. Look at him. He's decided to go shorter to look after me. Thank you. We're not there yet. I know we can't high five just yet. But when you look at your stint and what you did, and the decision to run as long as you possibly could in terms of your allotted time, George, it's played a big dividend, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not because I was faster than Rylan. It was just because that's the way the race has worked out for us. You know, he's doing an amazing job. His speed in this part of the race, and he's fuel saving at the moment. So he's doing really, really well. And just having that flexibility, you know, as I said earlier, we've got Matt Harvey on the wall calling the strategy, and he's made the big difference. You know, if you can't win it with speed, you've got to win it with brains. And it looks like that's how it's working out for us.
In among those considerations for him, clearly was a little bit of fingers crossed, a little bit of hope if you could get a safety car before we got to your maximum in some ways, wasn't there?
Yeah, there's a bit of that, but it's also engineering that flexibility into the race. You know, we had the ability to make those calls whenever we wanted because we ran so long in the first stint. You know, I think a lot of that time gap to the McLarens early on was because we had a boatload of fuel in, and they were obviously off to the races and had to stop when they stopped. So we put that flexibility in there on purpose, and it's paid off for us.
Final one for you. Car was unbelievably good on its tyres as well. That's another big tick. But also this young man that you've brought with you. We talked a little bit about Rylan Gray at Phillip Island. Great that you're giving him an opportunity to take a step up here, and he's delivering in all sorts of ways.
Absolutely. You know, it's great for me because, you know, I don't hang around. I like to think I'm pretty quick, and he sharpens me up, you know, every time we go out. So it's awesome. I think the main thing for us is, you know, we're ambassadors of Ford. We're very proud to be ambassador of Ford, and we put two good drivers in the best car and do what we can to win as many races as we can.
Draw the run to the end. Thanks, George.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Rusty. Isn't it great? George Medicke there. As we also heard from Tony Quinn too, pumping up the next generation of Australian talent. Just under 3 minutes to go. Just playing it safe there, Rylan Gray. And that Mercedes to come through. We're getting to the sharp end of this 3-hour endurance race.
Something to keep an eye on with 2.5 minutes to go. Jamie Augustine, last lap, was a little bit faster than the 32 of John Bowe. That gap is down to 3 seconds, sorry. So don't know if there's a potential there, but that's for the outright, or that's for the lead, in the AM class. But yeah, Rylan Gray, this car, it looks superb. Like we said, wasn't the fastest car today on the day, but they will feel like they were robbed of the win yesterday, and really the strategy, the safety car has fallen their way today, and at the moment they look like they're going to be coming home for a very nice victory here.
They've done very well, but I want to stay on that AM battle you mentioned before, because it's probably the closest we've got out there right now. Jamie Augustine was at 2.3 seconds, the gap now between himself and Bowe. Jamie Augustine, for those that don't know, is a long-standing technical delegate for Motorsport Australia. But for those that probably don't know, he spent a fair bit of his time racing improved production cars back in the day as well. So handy behind the wheel. We'll keep an eye on this battle because now 1.9 seconds. Jamie Augustine chasing down John Bowe. They're in a window. This is for a class win. So Rylan Gray, he's 54 seconds up the road. Don't worry about him. This is where the battle's at in the AM class right now. John Bowe being hunted by Jamie Augustine. The 32 of John Bowe, Randall Industries. And right behind him, in the sister Randall Industries car,
Randall v. Randall.
Randall v. Randall.
Spoken about Randall.
Randall v. Randall, spoken by Randall.
All right, 51 seconds remaining, boys. Keep it together. We've been good for 3 hours. Let's bring her home strong. Just like Jamie Augustine right now. 40 seconds and 1 lap remaining in this 3-hour race. Thank you for sticking with us. And look at Jamie Augustine. Runs very deep, nearly into the back of John Bowe. Into turn 6. I wonder if John Bowe's just struggling a bit under brakes because Augustine closed right up on the back of him at turn 6.
Might not have anything left in those tyres, Cameron, so he'll be told there'll be 1 more to go, you'd say, after this, depending on when Rylan Gray crosses the line. So this is a hell of a battle between the two Randall racing BMWs here. I think he's got a bit of a run here as well, Cameron, as Bowe puts the block on into turn 3. That's something that you can do. Force your rival to the outside, hold them out,
he's not going to give him this race. John Bowe is a fierce charger. Jamie Augustine, he's no slouch. This is for the AM Class Battle win. We're now about to start the final lap of this race. Your race leader, Rylan Gray, being chased by the Method Motorsport McLarens of Marcus Flack and Nathan Morecambe. But we're staying with the AM Class Battle. Matty McCutcheon still leads Pro-Am.
One to go as Rylan Gray just crosses the control line. So once Bow and Augustine exit. Oh, that's gone for a late lunge. That's too wide. He's gone probably offline there, and this has helped John Bow out.
2 laps in a row. We're probably going to have to go to our race leader shortly. We'll have time to come back to these guys, because I think the move will happen at turn 3 or turn 6, but we are on the last lap of a 3-hour race. Yesterday, race 1 for the Monochrome GT4 Australia series, George Miedeke was leading with a lap and a half remaining. We stay watching this AM battle. We split screen. There he is, your race leader for outright. Rylan Gray, Jamie Augustine hard on it. John Bow hard to the inside. Through turn 5 though, goes Rylan Gray. I don't know where to look at the moment. I'm staying with the AM battle. I love this. This is it. Oh,
nearly touched. Nearly touched down there into turn 3, Cameron. Augustine wanting that victory.
Hold on. They turned up with a brand new car in GT4 with Ford Mustang and Phillip Island and took it out. And in our first 3-hour race of this year, Miedeke Motorsport win race 2 of the Monochrome GT4 Australia series here at the Event-a-Leg Race Queensland. Now, back to the battle. 32 versus 33. John Bow versus Jamie Augustine. He's going to go for the last of the late breakers on the outside. This time he's a bit more measured. The over-under, the race to the flag. He wiggles mid-corner, trying to get the power down. The KG racer, John Bow, he'll be happy with the win. He's going to the line, but John Bow gets it done. Well done. I love that we called an AM battle right to the line. That doesn't happen often. Well done to all of our drivers. We were getting up in the seat over the AM class. Good job. Well done, John Bow. Great job, Jamie Augustine. Matty McCutcheon ended up, or he's about to end up, winning that Pro-Am class. Yes, he is through. So he's got that job done. And our podium is finished off now for the outright. Rylan Gray, Marcus Flack, Nathan Morecambe will be your podium for the outright. And James Baldwin, GT4 continues to produce great racing.
It was great racing yesterday. It's been great racing today. 3 hours, a massive strategy battle, and then an absolutely mega battle in the AM class right at the very end. What an event. Let's take a look at your race 2 results. Monochrome GT4 Australia. Miedeke Gray did an absolutely fantastic job with that Ford Mustang. Marcus Flack and Heyman for Method Motorsport finishing in 2nd for the McLaren, with Morecambe and McLennan also in the McLaren in 3rd. McCutcheon and Quinn, probably the drive of the day, I'd say, for that game over entry, being in 4th. In 5th there, Morris and Griffith for Team 19, a little bit further behind Cam.
Oh, when you say drive of the day, there's so many we could go through, and we will when we get to the highlights. In the end, the AM race battle brought home 11th place outright for John Bow and Lawrence. That's Jacob Lawrence. Jamie Augustine and Peter Lawrence were in 12th. Antonio Astudi, with that penalty he had towards the end of it, brought it home 13th outright. But let's now have a look at the race 2 highlights for the Monochrome GT4 Australia series. And it was the Method Motorsport McLarens off the front, and they were playing a game of run and hide as they jumped to the front and went very quickly straight out of the blocks. And we know now, in the interviews that unfolded in the following 3 hours, that there was a strategy in play for the Miedeke Motorsport Lubramax Ford Mustang, which was to conserve, preserve, and run very long. There was the 25 that was showing incredible speed. In fact, at the end of that one, it was actually the 24, Nathan Morecambe at the wheel, that now holds the new race lap record here. Plenty of action as cars started to get a bit loose as they got hot on their tyres. That was the 27 of Antonio Astudi. And the battle was willing early on between both McLarens. They were side by side through turn 3. There was that spin that happened down at turn number 1. And as a result of that, we brought out the safety car, which fell straight to the hands of this car here, of George Miedeke and Rylan Gray. They played their cards beautifully, and it fell right into their lap. But they couldn't do it without the incredible first stint of George Miedeke. They took home that flag deservedly after yesterday missing out on the win. But this was a battle that had us up in our seats. The battle for the AM class. John Bowe making his car very wide as Jamie Augustine looked any way he could to get past, and it was John Bowe with all of his experience getting the job done to the line and winning the AM class. I love that after 3 hours of racing, they were door to door at the line. And here's George Miedeke with his young charger in Ryland Grey for the Lubramax Ford Mustang, and Miedeke Motorsport just celebrating down in pit lane. What a great race, and what a way to start the day here, the final day of the Event Elect Race Queensland. Time to go down now to Greg Rust.
Cam, thank you. Shannon's Victory Lane is alive with celebrations. All of the class winners, certainly from a silver point of view, an outright point of view. What a day for you guys. I mean, in that final stint for you, was it just a case of hit your marks and keep doing what had been played out so well beforehand?
Yeah, pretty much. Just sort of had to bring it home, you know. Had a little bit of fuel saving, which is just sort of coasting around, which we had a phenomenal lead thanks to the team and the strategy. So, yeah, just coasted around for the last half an hour. It was good.
You failed to mention the part you played. Congratulations, Ryland. Nice job. He really did contribute significantly. But as he points out, it's about the team behind you too, George, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Ryland did an unreal job. You know, he's so reliable and dependable. He'll get in the car and drive it as fast as it'll go. But as we said, you know, this win is for the team. You know, we had obviously the Miedeke Motorsport team been working hard on the car all weekend. We didn't quite have the pace of the McLarens in that first stint. We think they were pretty low fuel, so that gave us the flexibility to change our strategy towards the end of the race. But a special mention to
you're right, you got a mental blank. Regather your thoughts there. No doubt there'll be some text messages coming in from the United States too.
Yeah, special mention to Matt Harvey. You know, he's engineered me to 2 big enduro wins this year. He was with me for the 6 hour earlier on, and it was his calm call that made the difference in that race. And yeah, look, we're so proud to be ambassadors for Ford and for a great Australian company in Lubramax. So to win the only enduro this year, pretty cool.
Well done, boys.
Thanks.
There you go. All right, let's move now to Tony Quinn and Matty McCutcheon, the Pro-Am side of things. When you set out on this mission today, did you think you'd be here in Victory Lane?
No, we didn't have a great start to the weekend. We seemed to get a few penalties and stuff, but no, I felt good in the morning, got it through past a few, and I knew that Matt would just hose it to the end, so it was all good, all up to him.
Well, and for you, Matty, from your career standpoint, really cool to benefit from the support, but importantly to deliver behind the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely, and to come back and at Queensland Raceway where I work now and do it with Tony, it was a pretty special moment, and all the team and all the boys, they put in a lot of effort, so I'm really happy to be here now.
We didn't put in any effort, mate. We arrived here on Friday morning. You were working Thursday, so was I, and we just went out racing for the weekend.
Just quickly, when he spoke to me early on in the race, he talked about a little radio gremlin. Was it okay for the rest of the race?
Yeah, I could hear them, but they couldn't hear me, so they're probably thankful for that. So yeah, it was good.
Okay, well done. Congratulations to you both.
Cheers, thank you.
Right, we move to AM now. John Bowe adds yet another trophy to the cabinet. Is there any room?
There's no room, but I mean, I'm so proud of this bloke. He does, in less than a year, he's gone from 0 to like 100. He's fantastic. So everybody better watch out for him in the next few years.
Jacob, well done. That's a nice endorsement there. How about the nerves at the end of that race, though? Because in an inter-team sense, boy, it was on, wasn't it?
I know, I was bloody nervous. Watching the two cars battling it out in the last couple of laps. So just wanted the boys to bring them home, and nice 1-2 across the line was epic to see.
Yeah, great story. Congratulations to you both. AM winners in the Monochrome GT4 race here at Queensland Raceway.
Thank you, Rusty. You're a top man.
Well done. All right, we're going to grab a commercial break here in our coverage now. Still lots more to come on a huge day here at Queensland Raceway.